Good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you are. Welcome back to HeroesCCL, presented by Wisdom. My name is Bahamut, joined by Grubby and Justing, and ladies and gentlemen, Murlocs, Cho'Gall mains, as well as Genji mains out there. We are here in our grand finals weekend, our final playday of HeroesCCL Season 3. And before we start breaking down our lower bracket finals, our bracket in general, our grand finalists, and all that good stuff, we need to, of course, check in with our lovely, lovely commentators, analysts, and of course, let's start with Grubby. Grubby, how are you doing? Are you ready for this fantastic day of games?
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. I want to see if Simplicity can do it 3 times in a row. Kind of in a place where we may not have given them a chance anymore with how they were getting on when we were joining in on those comps, which is something we can do today as well. But they've done it again. They've made it into top 3, and now they're in that lower bracket finals. I'm super curious to see what they can do and the damage that the other 2 teams can do, 30k and WildHeart.
These 3 teams that we have left in our bracket are really just vying, and they are growing, scaling, and just showcasing so much amazing skill, Justing. And of course, what are your thoughts getting into today? How you feeling? Are you ready to go for 2 matches, one being a best of 5, one being a weighted best of 7?
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's really cool to kind of see how the teams have ramped up as the season progresses, and it's cool to see teams like Simplicity putting in that extra time at the end of the season to be able to take down Storm like they did, coming out of the gauntlet so strong. I think a lot of people were really expecting to see Storm here today. So Simplicity being able to knock them out means that you really can't count out Simplicity by any means, even if they are in that lower bracket.
Now, Simplicity definitely some amazing skills in last weekend's lower bracket matchup up against Storm Esports, and we'll break down a lot more of that further. There's so much to dissect from today, and of course, let's start getting into our prize pool. Of course, we got to break down where that money goes to, because I'm sure you all want to know the transparency that we do always offer here at Wisdom. 60% of the donations will be going to the player's first place, that coveted first place that we are going to find out today. Will be taking 35% of said 60%. Now, of course, to be transparent with all of you at home, 40% does come back to Wisdom to be able to create graphics, run this production, run this amazing league. And because of your support, we have hit $14,462. And Grubby, I know that there was a little bit of an incentive here, and so could you break down what happens if we can hit 15K?
Well, we were at a point where we were at like 10k plus a couple of weeks ago, and we said like, okay, if we can reach 15k, we're going to perform a song, and we've been slowly dropping hints every 1,000. The community has been coming through real good in order to sponsor, co-sponsor, let's say, co-support this league, the players and the production. And there we go. We've been dropping hints, but now it's going to be finally time. We're going to be performing to the tune of Moana's You're Welcome. We're going to be performing You're Carried, a song about Illidan. And, well, I think you guys are going to love it. When are we going to do that, Baha?
Well, we got some games, maybe. I mean, it really depends, like, how good Twitch chat is today. If you guys are well-behaved, maybe we can give it to you guys after the first best of 5 of the day. I think that's pretty reasonable, Justin, don't you?
Yeah, although, yeah, it's definitely reasonable. I'm just shaking in anticipation to hear this, actually. It's been many days of build-up waiting to hear this song finally coming out from Grubby. I'm definitely excited. It's been hyped up, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
I can't wait to hear what this is all about. We can only kind of guesstimate as to what Grubby has put together, and I'm so excited to check this out. But it is going to be happening. To be clear with all of you, I know I kind of alluded to it a little bit. It is going to happen after the first best of 5 of the day, or at least the first matchup of the day. So stay tuned for that. You do not want to miss it. It will be during that kind of break as we do get ready for the grand finals later on today. So you'll have something to kind of keep yourselves here while we are getting ready for that best of 7. But let's break down as to what's going to happen today, because there was so much to explain that's happened here in the HeroesCCL playoff ladder. And of course, Justin, could you break down what happened in the gauntlet, the ladder bracket here?
So we saw Chili Mountain take out Granite Gaming in a 3-0, and then Storm Esports 3-0'd Chili Mountain. Storm Esports went on to 3-1 Oxygen, and then 3-0 Diamond Hands as well. So Storm Esports were looking super strong coming out of the gauntlet. but they did end up falling to Simplicity later on, and really against all expectations. Storm just looked super strong through the whole gauntlet, but they were not strong enough to take down the top 3 teams between Simplicity, WildHeart, and 30K.
It is. The ladder bracket was really exciting, and as you were mentioning, this is the double elimination that we are looking at right now. We saw that Storm Esports Simplicity matchup last week and got game number 5. A lot of you may have seen it in the pre-show as we were getting ready for the day today. Justin and I broke down the last 2 clips of said pre-show were Storm Esports versus Simplicity, that Towers of Doom game that led us into game number 5, and then that Volskaya Foundry game with the just beautiful flank. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. It's just that beautiful flank into BBJ on that bottom lane control point C, and that just pushed Simplicity into this lower bracket finals up against WildHeart. That is what's going to kick off today's matchups. And then as a reminder, throughout the day, I'm going to try and remind you, chat, I'm going to try and remind everyone at home, 30K will have a 1-game advantage in the upper bracket, they're going to have a 1-game advantage in the grand finals because they made it through the upper bracket without dropping down to the lower bracket. So it's just really exciting stuff. And of course, Grubby, we can kind of get into a little bit of like anticipation or thoughts, and maybe what are your thoughts getting into this first matchup as we are kind of getting ready here?
Yeah, so in the first matchup, our lower bracket finals, essentially the culmination of the lower bracket, it's do or die. The team that loses this best of 5 is eliminated and will be granted the 3rd place spot out of 8 teams in this league. Not bad. But it's all about perspective. Now that they're here, they would be 3rd out of 3, right? The other 5 are already eliminated. So it's the worst you can do to lose immediately here. At the same time, it's one of the hardest things you're going to be doing because all of these 3 teams are by now the best 3 teams in this league. So theoretically, you're against the number 1, 2, or 3 team. You got to prove it. See if you can make it another round in a best of 5, just like the first winner bracket round. And what we can say is that WildHeart has already beaten Simplicity once in that winner bracket semifinal. So will they be able to repeat that? They are stronger, therefore they do it twice. Or did Simplicity learn from that and now have a different approach? Or are they coming in stronger in general today with their daily shape? I think both teams have their work cut out for themselves.
It is a lot to be working at today. And of course, we will get into this matchup here in just a second because we got to shout out our amazing sponsor, Next Level Gaming. And you, or maybe the people at Next Level Gaming are probably watching this right now because Next Level Gaming hosts HeroesCCL watch parties throughout the season. And today I'm hoping that there's a lot of people cheering and excited to get into these matches and watch from there. But of course, not only can you watch Heroes of Storm over at Next Level Gaming, but you can play Heroes of Storm over at Next Level Gaming. What they have for you are HP Omens with Intel i7s and RTX 3090 video cards. That is a beast of a computer. And of course, with all that CPU power and graphics power, you got to have some great monitors as well. So we have a 24-inch monitor with 240 hertz, or there's a 32-inch monitor at 144 hertz. So exclamation point NXT to check out the amazing sponsor that is Next Level Gaming in the Miami area. But of course, as we have talked about bracket, we've talked about sponsor, we've talked about our anticipations, I think it's time to start maybe breaking down these rosters for Simplicity and WildHeart. And of course, on the side of WildHeart, we're going to be seeing Mason Blaze, Slug Hunter, Tremor, Weary Day, Zergling, and Lupus. A really, really strong roster. They've grown so much throughout this season. It has just been fantastic to see the tanking from Tremor. Slug Hunter in the solo lane, I gotta say, Justin, he has really, really showcased the growth from even swapping roles.
Yeah, it's especially impressive because he was kind of doing some social media stuff and managing teams before, and now he's here as a CCL player, so that's a big step for him. And not only is he here in the CCL for the first time, but also swapping roles like you mentioned. He used to be a support player, so it's just good to see that kind of just adaptation coming out from Slug Hunter, being able to be confident here, playing in the big league, in the CCL, on a new role, and from being a relatively unknown player. So it's really nice to see him kind of come into that role and own it well, and be able to compete up against the best.
And speaking of competition, we got Simplicity here, Grubby. Could you break down what we're going to see on this right side roster?
He will meet his match in the solo laner from Simplicity because Fancy Pants has been very impressive. if I'm not mistaken, he showcased a fantastic Leoric last weekend. It was absolutely crucial and instrumental to the victory that Simplicity had. Legacy was basically fighting over the Lucio pick with his adversary BBJ in Storm. Both of them just absolutely showing great skill on that hero. Masquerade, a flexible tank that can play Diablo or Tyrael, two very different tanks. Mene, a mage extraordinaire, a veteran that has still been finding his stride here, and then Unaverted, he's a Hanzo addict. And I mean that in the best way. Hanzo getting his quest stacks up, getting his Dragon Awakens resets. But he's a very flexible assassin as well. This is an all-star roster also.
Really excited to see these rosters clash, and we know where we're going to see these two teams clash on as we have our maps ready to go for all of you at home. And let's see what's going to happen here as we are going to be heading into, look at this, a WildHeart specialty, Tomb of the Spider Queen. But how did we get here? Simplicity won the coin flip, opting for first pick priority, banning out Battlefield of Eternity, and WildHeart will get rid of Cursed Hollow. Some map stats for all of you at home, of course. WildHeart on Tomb of Spider Queen have a record of 4-3, 4 wins, 3 losses. The side of Simplicity, they sit 2-3, 2 wins, 3 losses. Now, of course, Justin, we are into our draft. We are ready to go. We've broken down the teams. We've broken down the bracket. We're into the final play day of HeroesCCL. We're in our lower bracket finals. And of course, as always, as we get into Tomb of Spider Queen, what are your thoughts, expectations for this draft?
So this is a map that should favor WildHeart, and they are the ones who picked it. Where WildHeart really thrives when they're in that 4-man, 5-man unit. This is a good map for that, especially when you have players like Tremor, who could theoretically get the Stitches. Not sure if Stitches will be left up for the side of WildHeart with how good they've looked on it in the past.
Right.
And this is where Simplicity kind of took the gas out of Storm in their series. So there's good things for both teams. WildHeart played this map against Simplicity, where Simplicity ran their double support comp that I had really high praise for the composition, but they just didn't manage to have the execution to pull it off. So I'll be curious to see if Simplicity is able to continue drafting that style after losing with it in the previous week against WildHeart. Not sure if they'll be looking to go with that double support style again, because they could also go with the heavy disengage, kind of counter engage style that they ran up against Storm Esports to beat them on this map.
We already have a Stitches ban coming out, and a fun little fact for anyone that's wondering, that was the 22nd Junkrat ban throughout the season for the side of Simplicity. But WildHeart, you're going to kick things off with the Blaze Sylvanas, Grubby. Of course, got to get your thoughts as well.
Sylvanas is like Raynor in that she can deal a lot of damage to the front line, but she diverges from Raynor with a lot of extra dimensions, with her ability to assault structures, shutting down their defenses, and her ability to control fights with Mind Control or Wailing Arrow. And finally, she can even do area of effect damage when played skillfully and getting the proper support. She's been going up steadily in priority in the CCL, basically rocketing her to the top of the DPS damage dealers, together with Vala, Junkrat, Falstad, Hanzo, and on some maps, Li Ming, and of course, Lunara as well. So, strong pick coming out. Blaze has been absolutely fantastic and hotly contested. And Simplicity is already showing part of their hand here with the Falstad Leoric pick. There's a great combo, and it's Entomb and Gust. It's a strong isolation combo, relatively easy to pull off. Press the Entomb on someone, Gust everyone else away. It even buffets the person in the Leoric's Entomb a bit, and they all get disabled. And then you try to pick off that one hero.
As we have a few more bans in the next round of picks coming through, of course, Justin, I want to get your thoughts on all of this. Do you think we could actually see like a Tyrael from Simplicity? Because that did counteract Blaze in the Storm Esports matchup last weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. They're kind of showing already that that's sort of the style that they're going with. They're very clearly not going with a traditional double support comp like they did last time. And yeah, it's this more disengage focused, heavy just kind of punish the engage of the enemy team style coming out. And a lot of macro right now. They have Rhaegar with a lot of wave clear on a support, which is unique to Rhaegar. They have Falstad with the global, who can always just split Leoric. Even if he does go down in a side lane, he doesn't care because he's Leoric. He'll be back soon. So, and that seems to be kind of their response to the potential Diablo, which does come out from Tremor, is having that Leoric. We'll see what else comes out. They've got Hanzo for Unaverted. Absolute comfort for him. And yeah, like you mentioned, the Tyrael does come out. So a very disengage focused composition. And WildHeart's last pick, we'll see. I would expect it to be either a Medivh, a Zagara, or something weird. Maybe even okay, there's the Mephisto coming out. So not the traditional Zergling hero. I was kind of wondering if they would still be prioritizing Zagara on the side of WildHeart after they've already seen Mene's pick. That kind of answers it. They're not. So, because I was a little bit curious about that Zag pick that we had seen last week in the series. So, seems like they're going with the Mephisto, which has been prioritized quite heavily on Tomb before. So it's not completely surprising to see this. It is good for them to be able to get it as a last pick, though, as a response to the composition drafted by Simplicity. They do have a kind of deathball-y composition for Simplicity. It's not quite the same as what they ran against Storm Esports, but it is very disengage focused and kind of just defensive composition. But they are going to be clumping quite a bit, and that is really where Mephisto shines. So I think a lot of this game is going to come down to Zergling on the Mephisto being able to punish Simplicity for their playstyle. If their heroes are ever really split up on the side of Simplicity, they're not going to be faring too well in teamfights. And especially with the Tyrael, you're always looking to group for the Sanctification and group for the shields and for the movement speed. So a lot is going to come down to Zergling being able to kind of punish that alongside the Blaze with the AoE stuns. You have a very combo-centric WildHeart-esque comp drafted by WildHeart, and we have a composition that seems to fit Simplicity's sort of newfound playstyle in this disengage-heavy composition coming out from Simplicity. So it's going to be on WildHeart to get clean engages off if they're going to want to win, because as soon as they mess up one engage, the entire team fight is going to fall apart for them to Simplicity.
Simplicity does have like that counteractive play. We talked about it throughout the week, Justin, and just the overall just sanctification counteraction of Bunker from Blaze. That kind of seemed like Bunker comes down, Saint goes out, and Simplicity wins the fight. So we're gonna have to see if they can replicate that against WildHeart, or if WildHeart can do what they did in the upper bracket and be able to knock Simplicity out. We have loaded into map number 1, and of course, Justin, thank you as always for your analysis, your breakdown, and your thoughts, as we will find out more from you after Tomb of the Spider Queen. But ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We are ready to go. It is the lower bracket finals. Loser of this best of 5 series goes home, takes 3rd place. Winner goes on to face 30K later today in a best of 7. That's a weighted best of 7 for 30K. But let's break down what we have here, as Slug Hunter will be on the Blaze, Zergling on the Mephisto, Weirdy on the Brightwing, Mason Blaze on the Sylvanas, and Tremor to play the Diablo. Over on the side of Simplicity, we're looking at Legacy on the Rhaegar, Masquerade on his Tyrael, Unaverted to play his Hanzo, Hans on the Leoric, and Mene will be on his Falstad, split pushing, getting some hammering stacks, and it is going to be an unfortunate. We have to get a little bit of a fix going, and we'll go ahead and get that all loaded up once again. And so while that's all happening, I introduced the teams, but of course, Grubby, I want to get your thoughts, because it's going to be we got to get everything reset here, make sure that everything is on the correct server.
Oh, okay. It was a server thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we had some issues where we had some trouble starting the lobby, some BattleNet foibles, and nothing big. We finally got in, but probably the multiple remakes forgot one step to choose the host or something. So we'll get that started. Same draft, of course, same everything, but it gives us one more chance to kind of chip in on the draft as well.
Yeah.
Previous week we saw Mephisto and Tomb of the Spider Queen, as we bring our friend Justin in again, since we have a little bit of a pause. Welcome back, mate. So previous week we saw Mephisto getting hard countered by Tracer. And that was the final game on Volskaya Foundry, wasn't it? Simplicity used Tracer to kill Storm Esports' Mephisto, and he doesn't really have anything at short range to drive her away. And now you saw that 3rd ban coming in from WildHeart, which kind of preordained that they were at least thinking about a Mephisto, while also, of course, removing a strong pick that Simplicity is just good at in general. Tracer Tyrael has been going up a lot in trend, and then Mephisto was safer coming out. On the other side, you had the Leoric Falstad pick, who have the single target pick-off ability, and Simplicity ended up banning Anduin, which makes total sense. And then if you see the response of Diablo Brightwing, not only are those strong together because of Diablo's large health pool and the phase shift from Brightwing giving so much bonus health to him because it's partially percentage-based, but it also allows Brightwing to jump back in when there is an isolated move on Diablo. Entomb Diablo, gust the other 4 away, and if Brightwing holds her phase shift and not just panic react, oh, he's in trouble, I phase shift, because then he can get gusted, then it's on 10-second cooldown. Hold it, trust Diablo to survive with Soul Shield, and then right after the Gust Tomb combo comes in, you phase shift, and maybe you can save everyone. Rest can re-engage. Mephisto teleports in. So there's definitely like counterplay options for both teams here. But Mephisto, like, he's like the most overpowered character that doesn't win all the games in a way, because what Justin alluded to, you have coordination requirement, and it's kind of combo based, right?
Yeah, and it is cool to see WildHeart learn from the previous series, even not their own game, and ban out that Tracer. Something that I think is really interesting with how WildHeart drafted is typically you'd see one of the priority supports picked up on the 1-2, and they opted to go with the Sylvanas instead. And then they got an Anduin ban coming out from Simplicity, so kind of just the, like, WildHeart just sort of creating their own priorities for themselves, which is actually affecting the way that the enemy is banning against them, which is really interesting, because they ended up going with the Brightwing, not even taking the Stukov. Stukov made it through this entire draft unpicked, which is pretty strange, but it's cool to see that that wasn't a Stukov ban from Simplicity. It was the Anduin, which isn't what we would normally see, and that's just due to Weary Day prioritizing the Anduin so heavily previously. And then on the other side, banning the Tracer, which again isn't super typical, but after you see Unverted close out that series against Storm with the Tracer, it definitely makes sense to ban that away. And like Grubby mentioned, it makes added sense if you're looking to go with that Mephisto, which they do pick up. So it's just cool to see how the different teams' styles have come into play, and how the teams seem to be kind of finding more of an identity than they had previously as we get closer to the end, trying to just default towards comfort, default towards things that work. And it's hard to say which side is going to come out on top. We've had games where WildHeart has these heavy engage focused compositions, where if they fail and engage, they automatically lose the fight. We've seen them with comps like this before, where they haven't necessarily been able to pull it off. But then we've also seen games where they have a similar composition, where they just completely smash the other team, and it doesn't even look fair. So it's a lot is going to come down to the coordination and to the just precision that is going to be needed for the side of WildHeart.
Precision is key between both these teams. I was just looking at some of the records as well, and it honestly feels like Simplicity, they only bring out this Tyrael when it is not a dire moment, but when like things need to get serious right away. Because I was looking at the stats for it. I believe Masquerade is 4-1 on the Tyrael. Yeah, he's played it 5 times, only losing with it once on Volskaya Foundry. Otherwise, he's found success on Tomb of the Spider Queen, twice on Alterac Pass, and once on Towers of Doom. So it feels like a really, really strong tool that they're bringing out immediately from the side of Simplicity, because they're not here to kind of waffle around or, go back and forth and trade, to be able to just start the series out on a W. And I think that's big for both these teams. Just as an update for everyone at home, I know we have a little bit of a pause here. We got everyone back into the lobby. We're getting the readies out from both teams. We are going to be loading in just a second. So thank you all for your patience. We do apologize for the slight delay. It's just a little bit of things that are just out of our control, unfortunately. But we are going to get things reeled back in. We're going to get into that first map. We're going to start seeing some amazing Heroes of Storm action. So of course, thank you as always for everyone at home being patient, for hanging out with us, and just waiting as we just about to get into this game. And of course, Justin, as we've just about to load in once again, any other thoughts that you might have missed or you want to kind of jump onto just as we load on into Tomb of the Spider Queen?
So the only other real major thing is that Tremor, while he did get his Stitches banned away, he did get Diablo, which he's also quite known for, and that he's shown a lot of prowess on in the past. And he does have that Brightwing to save him with the percent HP. Brightwing, basically the only healer who can successfully heal a Diablo and save a Diablo. And there's no anti-heal on the side of Simplicity like we normally see. So it's going to be potentially the Tremor show, which is something that we've kind of come to expect a lot of the time when Tremor gets one of his favorite tanks. So I'm going to be paying a lot of extra attention to Tremor on that Diablo.
Well, Diablo is going to be the hard priority for them, and it looks... All right, looks like we're going to have to remake once again, unfortunately. Just it is throwing to West server. Just to basically let you all know, it is doing the one thing that it never ever does in a custom game. It is constantly throwing us into a West server, and this causes a few issues when it comes to just ping for a lot of these players. Central is better for our European players as well as the vast majority of NA players, because that kind of encompasses where they typically do play. So we do really apologize for the remakes, the just getting everything going here. We are going to get another lobby going in just a second and just get these players into a map on a central server. As I said, we do apologize. It's one of those things that we just quite literally cannot control because there's no button for it anymore. So yeah, that's why, because you can literally in Here's the Storm, you can set to NA or EU. You used to be able to set to Western or Central. You can no longer have that option. So
thanks, Microsoft.
Oh jeez, Grubby. So while we get everything going here, of course, I think we can just elaborate further. I mean, Grubby, just any thoughts on even just the potential matchup between these two teams? What you maybe expect from this first map, or what you maybe expect just in general?
Well, we're taking it from draft theory and application of tactics, strategy, and so on. We're taking it to the next level of how good are you at suspending your nervous energy and performing after some kind of delays? You know, it's esports when you have to deal with those things as well. Makes it feel almost like LAN, where more things can go wrong. CCL's been running so well. Like, this is so unusual for us, but how fitting actually on the finals day. Again, completely out of our control, and we're starting as soon as possible, but it's interesting. So just from the player perspective, you need to manage your energy, because you're trying to like peak with your acuteness of your mental acuity, let's say, right? Being cute helps too, but the mental acuity, you need to peak at the right moment, and that kind of plays in here. But we've got the draft laid out. We've got which one is maybe simpler to play. Maybe the Leoric Falstad side is a little simpler to play, just because there's a really easy wave clear, and then so it's up to WildHeart really.
WildHeart, please.
Like Grubby mentioned, with kind of the tension that builds when you're in these moments as a player. If the server issues, if the pause takes long enough, the players might actually start getting cold hands, and they might have to go pee, which would heavily favor players like Mene, who have played at LAN, because that is the optimized LAN experience for anyone who's played on LAN, because you're stuck on the stage, and the stage is just super cold. And you're stuck there, and they don't let you leave for like 2 hours, so you're just sitting there like kind of bouncing up and down, like trying to get your hands warm. Like so anyone who's had some former LAN experience might be having a bit of an advantage here coming out after the pause once we start getting into the game.
So we have, just to kind of keep you all up to date, and we do apologize, it's out of our hands. We're doing our best to get into a game as quickly as possible. We have created a new lobby. We have got someone else just trying to create this lobby as a different host in the central region. So hopefully it works out. We are just about loading in. We are on the loading screen right now. I understand that you all want to find out what's going to happen here. I know you all want to get into a game, and we are just about to load into Tomb of the Spider Queen for our first map of the day. And of course, I haven't given my opinion on it, and I know you two have talked quite a bit. So realistically, as I look at both these teams, there's a lot of synergy from the side of WildHeart. There's a lot of really good aggression from the side of Simplicity. We're loaded in, so I'm gonna pause on my thoughts, and let's start talking about the actual game. Justin, of course, thank you for your breakdown and for helping us out during this little bit of a pause. But we are loaded in, ladies and gentlemen. We got a central server, and we're ready to go. We got WildHeart on the left-hand side, Zergling on the Mephisto, Weary D on the Brightwing, Mason Blaze on Sylvanas, Slug Hunter to play the Blaze, and Tremor on the Diablo. Over on the right-hand side, we have Simplicity. We're looking at Pants on the Leoric, Masquerade on the Tyrael, Legacy to play the Rhaegar, Unaverted on the Hanzo, and Mene on the Falstad. Now, my thoughts. Getting into all of this as we go ahead and check out our first engagement in our first map of the day in this best of 5 series. I really do, as I said, I like what WildHeart has, their aggression, the overall wombo potentials, Shadow Charge, Blaze Jet Propulsion, Sylvanas Wailing Arrow, or Mind Control, Polymorphs, and then Mephisto shredding in with percent-based damage, even Durance of Hate to lock people down. I feel like that's so many just devastating tools on the side of WildHeart. Yes, Simplicity has that sanctification and ancestral healing as expected, but I really do think that WildHeart can take this one, and I have written down a WildHeart victory. Now that we are finally into the game, we can talk about that one. But of course, Grubby, we've talked extensively about our expectations, so do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to jump into, or any thoughts about Tomb here?
So to be clear, when Bahamut writes down, it's nothing like Death Note, something that's definitely going to happen. Those are his predictions, okay?
Yes.
When he says written down, this isn't scripted. The future's open. The world is their oyster. And so you think WildHeart, right? I think, you know what? I think I'm going to go with Simplicity here. They got the power of the Church of Rhaegar. They got that special sauce Tyrael, which is always kind of hard to anticipate. It can be a bit lackluster, but it can be so powerful with all these kind of difficult to measure little advantages: movement speed, slow, displacement, right, teleportation, movement speed buff, and then the sanctification. Yeah, I think we might be off to a Simplicity opening start here. So you've got your two casters here that are on opposite sides. Friends and cooperating here on the cast, but on opposite sides of the prediction. Nothing too hard. We're both super happy to see any team win, but we've got a bit of a juxtaposition there, and we'll see how that goes as the game is in full swing. And both teams have grabbed their bruiser camp, Bahamut.
And this is actually a little bit of a better positioning for the side of WildHeart. It harkens back to what Grubby and I have talked about extensively on Alterac Pass. You getting your camp secondary here is actually better because you can now defend with your camp by the fort front gate, clear out the enemy side, which is Simplicity, and now have your camp for WildHeart pushing into the Simplicity side. How much value it gets? Well, that's the big contest in that's the big contest to actually have here, because it's going to be a little bit of damage on the fort front gate. Yeah. As Pants is rotated up and is going to try and apply some pressure onto Tremor. Zergling will get the phase shift from Brightwing. Drops down to basically what he was at before the phase shift came through. And I guess if we actually compare the two, the side of WildHeart, when it comes to their mid gate, lost literally no damage on any of their structures, whereas Simplicity side did get poked at a little bit. So technically a WildHeart win in that sense, but when we look at experience, it is Simplicity with the faster rotations around the map, so their experience is a little bit ahead as Zergling drops low. Mene trying to apply some pressure. Is this a rotation to Mene? No, it's a rotation to continually pick up gems. And Grubby, for anyone that might be wondering, why are gems such a critical thing early game for Tomb, or maybe even throughout Tomb?
Why is what critical?
The gems, the
gems, yes.
The spider butts.
Yeah, once you get 50 gems turn in, you get those 3 web weavers. An additional push down the lanes, we call it an objective, and it's going to help you to take down the enemy buildings, requiring extra damage for defenders and allowing you to do extra damage into their forts and walls. And you know, statistically, a long time ago, someone once checked how often the team that gets the first Web Weaver objective channeled, how often they end up winning the whole game proper, and it was about 60%. Whether that's a show of force, the one that's able to get that was already the better team, or because you get the objective, therefore you get that bonus value. That is not answered by these statistics, but it's a little fun stat. And of course, 60% is nothing players should worry about. You just do your best at every stage in the game.
There used to be one of those stats about Curse Hollow. It was first team to get Curse or first team to take down a keep, because back then we didn't have the periodic catapult pressures. Like when you took down a fort, it was you only got catapults when a keep went down. So there was that kind of conversation, but the conversation needs to evolve into Legacy as he gets dove on by Tremor, but it's Tremor who's actually taking a lot of damage, doubles back, and I actually think that was a really good read, and maybe I'm overthinking this or overanalyzing, but I think Tremor actually doubled back to avoid the scatter arrow into the sidewall. He comes through the center area unaverted, almost getting chunked by Tremor, but that double back from Tremor was just really cool to avoid the scatter. At least it seemed that way.
Yeah, and in that moment, he still had 71% spell armor from Soul Shield, so he was definitely more protected against Hanzo, but he wanted to make sure that neither he nor the Brightwing that was sporting on him takes bonus unnecessary damage. Throughout all that, WildHeart created enough space with that near kill on Rhaegar, where just the angling on Blaze's jet propulsion was enough to get that turn in. Many gems have been turned in by Simplicity, so they're very close to get that after this phase, but for now it's WildHeart pushing in. The standard value for this push is 3 front gates, so 6 towers. That would be about the average. Sometimes we see half a fort, sometimes we see a full fort, sometimes we see almost nothing at all. The average would be about what I just said. So what are we getting here? Mid wall is gone, top wall is intact, bottom wall is intact but being attacked, and they got half a fort. So this is on the higher end of the values that you can get out of that objective for WildHeart. They're off to a good start.
WildHeart, decent start right there. I was checking Mason Blaze on the Sylvanas, what his cooldown on the Black Arrows was during that siege, and it was already at 14 seconds as the Webweaver was kind of falling, so I think it was used a little early in the siege, and it's still half a fort, as you mentioned, not bad through the mid lane. Oftentimes, top lane is our priority for the boss plus Webweaver. It's often considered like a game-winning play. And of course, as always, for anyone wondering, we will get into comms, typically trying to aim for comms post 10, just so that way we can get a little bit of that explosive, heroic value. Up until then, at least on Tomb of Spider Queen, from my experience, it always seems like there's just slow rotations, getting gems, trying to get this first turn in, get a little bit of siege, and it's going to be Simplicity with 10 talent to your first, Entomb onto Slug Hunter, and a Webweaver wave coming through, Slug Hunter taking a bit of damage, and of course, actually, as I mentioned, Tens, Grubby, you want to get in some Simplicity comms for these Webweavers?
Seems like a great time. Let's jump into it and hear from the minds of our 2x winner.
In we go.
He wants to heal.
Just one and I'm chilling. Okay, man, thanks.
Oh, we're looking for top push or what?
Yeah, top.
Okay, Xavier.
I want to
just wanna
be 3
keep
mid.
them
Can we just be
interested
3 mid?
Yeah, 3 mid. I will come. I'm just taking the
I
way.
think. I can't.
Fancy?
I think.
Cleanse.
I think. Okay.
Time.
Getting a lot bottom here. If you can deny the top rotate, it's good, but...
I don't think we can.
I don't think we can deny it.
What are you saying? I'm still
Again,
very mid,
we'll
okay.
Press, endurance.
Can we not kill bot at all? Or it's no way, right?
we can pressure him. He still has bunker. Hey, I got the wall.
We'll start going now.
I'm clearing one more mid.
I'm timing him.
Come here.
Hey,
Two DPS
Right,
top.
right.
DPS top. Yeah, Omega chilling, bro. They might push top with Seal.
They could come down here too.
Yeah, they do.
King top.
Can we farm them? They are low mana on Seal.
Okay.
No E as well.
coming,
No E as
yeah.
well.
We come
Taking
behind.
off.
No Brightwing Z.
They're starting to leave.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
We still have turn. We need
Yeah,
to
let's-
leave the spot.
I'm gonna get bunker. I'm gonna die.
We need those.
He's zoom though.
They're looking.
Do you need Gust or
When
not?
did this-
No.
Oh, he's in.
It's good. Okay. Look. This guy killable.
There's Durance. Give me gas.
Using industrial.
We haven't Jim.
Can
Three,
we
three,
communicate better, by the way? Like, I
Okay.
didn't know we
Two,
wanted
one.
to fight still.
Nah. Team
That's
Devil?
fine.
Just hit
No,
him.
we should just chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fine.
Sorry, you gotta call it. So no, it's okay though. I should probably just blow. My bad.
We're chilling.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
As we exit comms, Grubby, we are able to see the first blood achieved by the side of WildHeart Esports into the Leoric, but didn't really seem like Pants was too upset about that, as it is Leoric, he can respawn on the battlegrounds. The only thing that I was kind of concerned about in all of this is that Mene really wanted to push top lane, literally, not even wanted to be in the team fight. Like, they all rotated up. There's a big team fight. There's an Entomb. There's all this. And it's just like, do you need Gus? No. He goes to top lane. And then they go, we need Gus. He comes in, Gusts away, and then goes back to top lane. I'm confused.
So I think Mene was correct. I think communication was the key, the lack of it, most of all.
Okay.
And you kind of heard that. Can we communicate more? It was 4v5. The moment Pants died, Mene doesn't see any advantage in the 4v5, so he wants to push out top and kind of just close gaps, kind of stop dead ends. The fact that his 3 are still engageable upon by Zergling, that's the real issue there. He came back hesitantly, like he said, to do the Gust, and then he goes top again because Leoric is still dead. I think it makes sense. His team was a bit too far forward and they got Duranced, underestimating the reach that Zergling could have on them.
I do think that reaches extremely far with Durns of Hate. It's about a half a lane, if I'm not mistaken, that cast distance for the heroic of the Mephisto, as we do have the Webweaver phase coming out in favor for WildHeart. This is going to be the third one of the map in totality, and let's see what WildHeart can do with this. The Webweavers descend up as far as the enemy minion wave or closest structure, so mid lane descends right in front of the fort. Mason Blaze activates his black arrows and will be able to set up this fort for destruction. And I love this right now. They don't need to be in mid lane. The Webweaver, the minion wave, that's going to take care of the wave. They need to rotate to a place where they can find value, WildHeart, and they do this so quickly just as the Webweaver gets to the top lane fort. I like the rotation, I like the synergy, or excuse me, the shot calling, and a great arrow from Unaverted to be able to zone back the enemy side of WildHeart. But here comes Tremor with the re-engage, a cleanse onto Unaverted, getting the agility over the wall. You hear a Wailing Arrow in the background. Don't think it found much value. Slug Hunter, very low. Durance of Hate will come out. Slug Hunter has the bunker. He's just trying not to use it. Gets the Pixie Dust from Brightwing, and this is WildHeart disengaging, finding a fort through mid, some damage in top, and a bit of damage in bottom, as Sylvanas grabs the wave through there, but it's looking like a Simplicity turn-in, as they only need 7 more gems to be turned in of the 48 already in the bank.
Yo, Baha, that was a fantastic hold by Simplicity. They lost nothing almost that they hadn't already lost. Right? Heroics were used, Wailing Arrow, Durance, top fort almost completely untouched. Bottom tower still up. Simplicity aced that defense. That was 55 gems, almost down the drain, and now they're going to need to uncloak that.
You gotta better buy some Drano for the side of Simplicity, and let's see what they're able to do.
Yeah,
with
let
this
it
as
steep overnight and then flush it down with warm water.
Well, you got the Web Weavers to flush that siege in, or I guess flush it down. But anyways, let's talk about the actual siege hat here. Look at Slug Hunter on the bottom of our screen. He's looking for a flank, can't find it onto Unaverted. Has created a little bit of space as Leoric comes in with the Entomb on the left-hand side of the screen as Tremor's looking to make something happen here. This is going to be a huge arrow from Hanzo. Weary Day getting out of that angle. Gus from Falstad pushes Zergling in. A blink heal over the wall gets Weary Day out of this sticky situation, and here comes a bunker. But the big conversation in this, Slug Hunter's 27 gems have gone just to, I guess we're plumbers today, Grubby, because those gems just went down the drain.
Exactly, and well, this is a problem. I gotta say, Slug Hunter has looked a little shaky so far. There's been a number of jet propulsions, one during the second objective phase for WildHeart at the top fort, where he just went forward and then needed evac and nearly died. Here was another one, missed his jet propulsion, then ended up dying. There was a good bit of gust isolation as well. Unaverted did fantastic there. He did the gust into Brightwing and someone else, then hit a scatter into Brightwing, dropping her to 5% health, forcing her to use the blink heal over the wall into the mid fort. This left Blaze alone. So Simplicity, they definitely look more on point. Ant's got to pack it up a bit. In comes a Tomb. Oh, nice dodge by Tremor. Big fight going on here. Legacy is getting attacked. He gets polymorphed, but they are unable to follow up. Again, because of the zoning of the Dragon Strike of Hanzo.
It's pushed back the side of WildHeart. And now WildHeart actually goes for the re-engage, knowing that Heroic is down, but Sanctification, Gust, and Ancestral Healing are up and available. Mason Blaze gets chunked quite a bit. Masquerade putting the pressure on, but it's Tremor coming through, trying to make something happen here as Pants will apply the Spectral Leech to this Diablo. Meanwhile, on the bottom of our screen, Unaverted Legacy putting damage onto Tremor, who actually, I thought it was going to be Slug Hunter threatened, but it's Slug Hunter who pops the bunker to try and save Tremor.
Wow, nice.
This is a lot of Ancestral, almost able to get the kill into Masquerade, but a great Ancestral Healing comes through just in time, and it's Simplicity who are forcing this map into the WildHeart side, as 2 need to Hearth back for full mana and HP.
I gotta say, the DPS for Simplicity are really on point. Not to say any knock into healer tank. I'm just mostly focusing on them. It's the whole team. They're able to put a lot of damage onto the DPS of WildHeart, constantly dropping Mephisto low, and making sure that he can't play as riskily as he would like. Since the beginning of the game, since level 1, I've seen Unaverted beelining for auto attacks into Mephisto, getting relevant scatters in, and this is no different. Zergling is forced to teleport back in, does end up surviving that, and oh, the interrupt on the agility from Hanzo. He nearly goes down. There was a good shadow charge, but a great cleanse and purge save by Legacy. Another Web Weaver phase for Simplicity. Very low kill count game, but not for lack of trying from both sides.
Yeah. If we actually take a look at some of the damage numbers right now, Hanzo has 70,000 heroic damage. I know that a lot of that is scatter and etc., but still, that whittle damage is huge. There was a lot of moments where, as Grubby was mentioning in that mid lane engagement, where you had the Hanzo Dragon Strike coming through, and it was Zergling and Weary Day who were kind of gusted into that, and Weary Day had, like, as you said, 5% HP, getting the blink over the wall. So while these scatters may not be yielding kills, they are yielding enough poke damage to set up so much threat into WildHeart that WildHeart has to play a little bit more passive. 69 gems in the pockets of WildHeart. Can they get this nice amount of gems turned in? Durance of Hate will connect onto Pants. No, that was Masquerade. Sorry, my apologies. Misread the model right there, and Masquerade will go down. A few gems dropped by him. A turn-in to be had by the side of WildHeart. as I think Slug Hunter and Zergling need to get the turn in here. Just going to quickly check as well. 13 on Mephisto, 13 on Brightwing, 11 on the Blaze.
Yo, Baha, if that didn't happen, look at the levels right now. Look at the map colorization. Look at the control that Simplicity had. They were headed in their train to the final destination. They had 2 more stops to make, and then they could already reach their destination and unpack their bags happy and go on a vacay. But instead, Masquerade inadvertently got taken down. We didn't exactly see the start of it, but WildHeart got a great catch there. It was exactly what they needed to blow this game wide open again. And now they have a chance to get that turn in, take down the 2 forwards, top and bot, you would think, except they haven't stationed anyone bot. Oh, there's Blaze actually. But with Leoric defending there, with the Bruiser Cam defending mid, there is a chance that Simplicity can do a great deal of damage mitigation, perhaps even save bottom fort.
Bottom fort looks like it's saved by Pants. Slug Hunter moving into mid. We have Weary Day jumping into top, or slowly but surely. Zergling is going to shade a Mephisto forward, unaverted, looking for the counter kill into all of this. Man, Grubby, your train analogy reminded me of the time I've gone across the United States twice, from Detroit to Colorado for a ski trip. And if you did not know this, Amtrak, the railway that most people use, does not own the railways. It's owned by the freight companies, so you have to give right to them. So, like, literally, we were all like, we're getting into Winter Park, Colorado. And then it's like our train like deviates for like 2 hours because we got to let cargo trains constantly go by us.
Wow.
It was literally like that. Like, I have lived through this moment. It's like, we're so close, but we have to wait 2 more hours.
Oh, Unaverted gets double comboed, but the Purge comes in from Legacy. He's trying to save him. Ancestral Healing is still available. He's trying to hold it. Legacy's still looking for where he can best put things to use. Zergling gets attacked. Unaverted outplays the Zergling once again. Gets that relevant damage. Tremor tries to go in for the kill. Brightwing comes in. Ancestral Legacy with the perfect timing. Simplicity is gonna own this team fight. 5 versus 3. WildHeart did not have permission to go first. The cargo train of Simplicity is heading through first, and they're trundling along very, very nicely. Now, Simplicity has all the luxury of choice in the world. Get the turn in, and they can go for a double duty push and get that boss as well. Wow, big plays here. They'll take the boss first, then follow up with the Web Weavers, and this could be the beginning of the end here, Bahamut.
I need Justin. Oh, yeah, please.
I didn't even know that there was public transport in the US, so that's new to me as well.
We have it, don't worry, just not everywhere. So, well, I do have to say this. When we get out of this game, I gotta get a breakdown of that last engagement from Justin, because I want to know, why did Tremor go so deep? Like, it felt like a lost cause, and Tremor just went in like, I'm gonna get the Hanzo, but like, I feel like these, like, WildHeart should know that Ancestral Healing's up and available. They should know that it's Farseer's Blessing. It felt way too much like Tremor was like, I gotta make something happen here. That was like the feeling I got watching all of that. But as you were mentioning, Grubby, it's Webweaver plus boss. This is often a push to end for a lot of teams.
Maybe he knew he can't get away against Tyrael's slow and movement speed buff, so he just tried to get another 1-for-1 after things had already gone south. Very possible here.
So we have a little bit of poke out from Zergling, Shade Mephisto. If anyone's wondering why some of the WildHeart members move extremely slow randomly, it's because there was an Earth Grasp Totem picked up by Legacy at level 16, so it's a really big slow wind tunnel from the Falstad to allow this wave to push up. Zergling getting very low, needs to get into the Hall of Storms. Jet Propulsion from the Blaze will connect onto the Poly, Morphed, and Silence. Fancy Pants as Diablo goes into the backline once again. He's so isolated from his team, trying to make something happen here, but it's not going to work out. Another Farseer's Blessing will continue to buff out Simplicity, and it's Simplicity who will shut down map number 1 on Tomb of the Spider Queen in a fairly dominant fashion. It was control from beginning to end. Yes, they did lose structures, but there are things called calculated risks, and I think Simplicity, they've got the addition, and they know how to figure out this WildHeart roster. Game 1 was really well played by Simplicity, Grubby. Fantastic map. And I really got to say, Simplicity, they are coming to play today.
Very, very well played by them. They really hounded Zergling's Mephisto nonstop. And it begs the question, does Mephisto still have a place in the highest level of competitive HoTS esports right now? Justin, what do you think? The way that they went after Mephisto, was it skill execution? Was it draft? or has Mephisto lost his place to exist in the current team fighting meta?
I think it's definitely a combination of things. I think the Tyrael in particular really seemed to put a lot of pressure on him, maybe more than he wanted. Legacy would be my MVP for this game. It was kind of a toss-up on the side of Simplicity, but Legacy having those cleanses was absolutely crucial to counter-engaging what WildHeart was drafting. Pretty much every single time that Zergling would look for the Durants like he normally would like to with his ultimate, it was instantly cleansed by Legacy. And then he puts himself in kind of a peculiar situation where everyone knows where he's got to teleport back to, and Masquerade with the Tyrael has the ability to just dive on him if he wants. Everyone can kind of join in. Falstad can E forward if he wants. It's just a lot of pressure for him, and a lot of counter-engage on the other side with the Sanctification and with the Cleanse that makes it very, very difficult to play the Mephisto in this game, especially when it's Tomb of the Spider Queen. If it was Infernal Shrines, things might be a little bit different because you'd be forced to fight in a small little area, but not on Tomb. And I think that's the main difference, is just the Tyrael, just the counter-engage. It just makes his life miserable, it felt like, in that game. And shoutouts to Simplicity for playing it extremely well. They kind of just took the map apart after the first, well, I guess their second spider phase. WildHeart tries to engage mid, and they fail the engage, and that's sort of where the game started to fall apart for WildHeart. And Simplicity, typically with their composition, doesn't siege all that well, just with their composition, and it's hard for them to force fights until level 20. But WildHeart opted in to force the engage themselves, get counter-engaged on, and when Slug Hunter goes down on the second Webweaver phase, the spiders just push a lot naturally for Simplicity, and that's sort of where they started getting their big advantage. And I had touched on in the draft that WildHeart has a very combo-focused comp. They need to hit their combos perfectly and have a perfect engage to actually win a fight. And we saw that over and over and over again, they don't get the perfect engage, and it's very hard against the things like the Tyrael with Sanct. Legacy on the Rhaegar with the cleanses that were pretty much perfect. You have Gust as well. So there's just so many layers of defense for Simplicity that it makes it very, very difficult for WildHeart to get engages. And as soon as they mess up even a little bit, you have clips like this where Mene comes in, just Gust them all, and they're all split. It's really hard for WildHeart to be together in this fight. And I do think that Tremor just thought he was most likely dead and went for kind of the desperation play. But there's another layer of defense. They have the Ancestral left. So there's just so many layers of defense that they have to get through for the side of WildHeart to get any engages, and they're so combo focused that as soon as they use one combo and fail to get a kill with it, which is hard to do into what Simplicity is drafted, the fight pretty much just falls apart, because after that, Simplicity can kind of just run through them. And something also that was made very apparent as the game progressed was that WildHeart doesn't have very good single target damage. They have Sylvanas and they have Mephisto as their ranged DPS. The other heroes don't really contribute a lot of damage, it's all really spread. You have the Diablo with the Fire Breath. All these things are very split damage, and Rhaegar with the Chain Heal really likes that. He doesn't mind that at all. He says, yes, hit all of my teammates equally, and I will heal them all equally with my Chain Heal. And we saw that kind of coming out a lot throughout the game, where even though Mephisto was getting some damage, it wasn't really meaningful damage, and the Rhaegar was able to basically just heal everything. And as soon as the game gets to level 20, Simplicity's 20s are just way better. You have the Silencing Entomb with the Buried Alive, you have the Gust level 20, which Mene put on a show with in that last fight. You have the Dragon Pretzels infinitely. You just have a lot of control and better ultimate level 20s for the side of Simplicity. So WildHeart not getting the engages, and Simplicity punishing them in the first game.
Simplicity shutting down the side of WildHeart in a pretty surprising way. I really did think that WildHeart had the tools to make these advancements, but as we were watching, in a lot of it was a lot of just jet propulsions that did not connect in some critical flank moments. Some, I will say this, overextensions. Like we were watching that clip of Tremor. He literally shadow charges down to the right into the Hanzo. And I'm looking at the clip. There's still two people on the left-hand side he could have shadow charged into to make the escape. So it really did feel like, I'm going to get the Hanzo kill. I don't know. Maybe I'm harking too much on this. Maybe I'm too stuck on it. But what we're not stuck on is map number 1, because we are ready to go into map number 2, and we can let you know where we're going to be heading into as we've got that ready for all of you at home. It is going to be the map choice of Simplicity, as WildHeart Esports have opted for the first pick priority as the losing team, and Simplicity have chosen to take us to Alterac Pass. Now, map stats for this from both sides. The members of WildHeart are 0-3. They have not won this map a single time throughout HeroesCCL Season 3. When we look at Simplicity, they are 5-1. So data-wise, it lead me to believe that this is maybe a comfort per se for Simplicity as one of their best maps they have record-wise. But of course, Justing, any thoughts as we're going to get into Alterac Pass Draft right here?
This is definitely worrying for WildHeart because the type of composition that Simplicity played in the last game and that they've shown to really work for them a lot overall is this defensive kind of split the map style where everyone is really self-reliant. They all kind of passively add up to be the juggernaut in a team fight. They're not comboing everything together. They don't have all these crazy combos. They have a lot of heroes who work really well on their own, and when you put that all together, they're just constantly peeling for each other, and it makes it really hard to engage. So I like that WildHeart has banned away the Falstad. Falstad for Mene is just a terror of a hero. I think they would much rather see him on something like the Zagara that we've known him to play, especially on this map. So it's rough for WildHeart, especially with their map score, going into Simplicity, who was, besides 30k, the best team on this map. I'd say 30k and Simplicity play this map better than everybody else. So hopefully WildHeart has put in some practice on this map in particular, preparing for the series. We do see the Johanna come out first pick. Can't go wrong with that, but they are potentially giving over the Rhaegar to Simplicity, which Legacy just had a standout performance last game on the Rhaegar, so I'm sure he'll be happy to take it, especially on Alterac, where it helps to secure the null pack.
Well, there's that Rhaegar, as you were mentioning, and a Dahaka to come through as a hot priority. A lot of good flank potential with the Dahaka brushstocks on a 75-second cooldown. Wave clear is extremely strong. Tongue drags could lock down a hero. We'll see if there's a Zagara priority from the side of WildHeart, either in the next few picks or in the upcoming ban phase. But of course, Grubby, any thoughts on the ever-evolving draft?
Very similar direction for WildHeart in their early Sylvanas pickup, but the Johanna that can function as main tank is actually going to be relegated to the side lane, and then Diablo is going to be the proper main tank. And the reason these two are working so well together is that many things that counter Diablo are mitigated by Johanna. Her double blind build can prevent a Tychus from really being able to threaten Diablo within any relevant space of time in a standard team fight. So where does that leave you in trying to take down Diablo? It can be a draft like last game, where you've got superior mobility and some lockdown so that Diablo can't ever make it out if he goes in too deep, and then you just threaten other people and you use your mobility to get away from him. That's kind of what happened to the Spider Queen. Or you need something like Leoric or Malthael, which actually leaves me a little surprised that Leoric wasn't banned, as it seems to be the obvious choice here. Then again, Leoric Dahaka kind of hard to be in the same draft at the same time. So that last pick, it can be something that counters Diablo, but I wouldn't know who. Is Unaverted going to swap into a Malthael? It's pretty
Possible. I mean, we could see it. Percent-based damage, Johanna, Diablo, though, as you were mentioning, the double blinds are really difficult into a Malthael as well. We're going to find the last two picks from the side of WildHeart, a Deckard Cain. Ooh, I'm curious as to what they'll round this out with. And there's actually the Tychus to come through for WildHeart. Of course, Justing, we got one more pick from the side of Simplicity, but I'm sure you got a lot to break down for us here as we're getting ready for Alterac Pass.
So what WildHeart's comp is drafting towards is mostly just objective control. If they try to take a 5v5 on the objective with how the draft has panned out so far, they should win. They have the Johanna, who just provides constant blinds, and once they get to level 16 is going to be an absolute menace. On the objective, you're in kind of a tight corridor where there's not a lot of place to move around. The Hanzo coming out for last pick isn't super unexpected. It does pretty well into the Diablo. The main concern for WildHeart's composition is that with the Deckard, they're now fairly vulnerable to any potential one-shots. They don't have that easy cleanse, or they do have potentially Falling Sword to cleanse, but the Deckard himself is not very good at saving against one-shots. So if Slug Hunter is off in the side lane, and Simplicity is able to get an engage, either with a Dragon Arrow from Unaverted or a Tongue from Fancy Pants, then WildHeart might be in a bit of trouble. So their composition is going to be purely fighting around the objective, though. I would expect Simplicity to try to force them to take fights off of the objective, either by split pushing or by doing like 30k does so well on this map, where they create these windows to get a talent advantage or a level advantage before taking the objective fights. And if Simplicity wants to win the fights around the objective, they're going to have to do the 30k style, where they essentially completely ignore the objective itself, which makes the enemy fight for the objective and kind of use resources in the fight to maintain the objective, and instead just go all in for a team fight. But that might be a little bit difficult into the counter engage from WildHeart. You have the Stay a While and Listen from Weriday playing the Deckard. You have the Flame Breath from Diablo likely coming out. We might see a APOC Stay a While and Listen combo, which would be quite nice, but it's really risky into something like Tyrael. And I can't help but feel like maybe WildHeart needs to start paying a little bit more attention to Masquerade on the Tyrael, because if they're going to be playing these heavy engage style compositions like they have once again, 5v5 comps just team fight you, the Tyrael from Masquerade really shuts that down. And I think banning out the Falstad is a good start, but that might not be enough. When you have Masquerade playing Tyrael as well as he did last game, it's really hard to force these engages, even if you do have a favored comp for it around the objective. And it's kind of the same story of last game. It's hard engage versus kind of some disengage, sustained fights coming out from Simplicity.
Well, thank you, Justin, for the breakdown as always, because on the side of Stormy mixed Stormface, we have got WildHeart Esports, and on the side of Drekthar, we have got our Simplicity crew. Let's go ahead and get on into our second map of the day as we are here into Alterac Pass with the members of WildHeart Esports down in the series, but of course, we are going to see a little bit of a slow onto the minion wave from Simplicity, an old tactic we used to see in the HGC, but it's mostly just to be able to kind of pull the enemy minion wave closer to your gate so you have an easier time to clear. Small little tech right there, little history lesson for anyone at home wondering, but either way, it is going to be a big fight. Grubby breaking out around this bottom area, WildHeart trying to put the pressure onto Simplicity early game here. I am looking at Simplicity. It's hard for me to go against their Tyrael. They've got Lunara and the Dahaka. I like these heroes in the amount of just damage sustainability that they do have in chase potential lockdown. It seems like Simplicity could definitely make some big waves here on...
We have, Bahamut, a first blood.
First blood! Okay. All right, all right. We were doing our best out here, but either way.
A longer pregnant pause next time. But this is insane. Look at the damage that WildHeart is doing here, Bahamut. We've got games after games after games on Alterac where they are vying for little bits of inching progress on those mid towers as you spam null packs at each other. And now off the back of basically a double kill move, the first one on Tyrael, which was mitigated by a level 1 purge from Rhaegar that I wanted to comment on, was like, hey, that's part of Rhaegar's strength, right? Like level 1 cleanse. That would have been a kill, that trap that WildHeart put on Tyrael. Then again on Hanto with Mason Blaze just coming in there, finishing the job as he just got away from Diablo and Friend. That was pretty insane. And then they get so much damage, partially because it's Sylvanas, partially just because you've got a superiority in terms of numbers. Look how strong Sylvanas is here, shutting down those Hellbats, that null pack. Trying to go for Johanna now. She's going to get away with part of Iron Skin and part Blinds. WildHeart with a great start here.
WildHeart, little jump in just their siege as well. Mid lane fort front gates already lost one tower, more than half of the actual gate's health and more than half of one of the tower's health as the null pack through mid will be pushed in. Dahaka does rotate in, has the tissue regeneration for more HP, but also did go into Lurker Strain. Little control in the team fight with that bop onto enemy heroes as he does exit his burrow, looking just through the level 1s and such, as well as the level 4, excuse me. Firestomp build for Diablo here kind of seems the standard for the map, but Tychus going to go into the Master Assassin, pairs well into the Commandeer Odin, but 15 kills, we definitely need a bloodbath of a game if Zergling wants to finish that, but the big factor is that passive.
Yeah, the Firestomp build gives you lots of proccing of your Soul Shield. The first question you ask yourself as Diablo usually is, do I need Soul Shield? And when your opponent has significant amounts of spell damage, which Lunara and Hanzo do, generally that's the right choice. The Firestomp build gives you the most procs of Soul Shield, making you a virtually unkillable tank. And then there's also some other builds. You've got the Charge build, which is a little hard to pull off against good cleanse supports, as you can't do combo if someone gets cleansed. And it's also hard against a highly mobile team that have preferential positioning to prevent their back being against the wall, which is what Diablo needs to kickstart a Shadow Charge combo. Finally, you've got the auto attack build for Diablo, which is best when your team has superior mobility to your opponent. if they are unable to walk past Diablo without him getting many attacks off, then it's good. Oh, hold that thought. They go on Deckard there. Weary Day getting mercilessly focus fired, but with the shielding potions, is able to keep himself alive with that peel as well. And just to finish things on the auto attack build, if they can't get around you too easily, you get many autos off, you get many combos off because of it. But because they're against the Tyrael, Rhaegar, Lunara, Dahaka comp, which are all extremely mobile, Diablo would be trying to run after them just to get any kind of relevant amounts of auto attacks in. So now it's more about keeping himself alive. He gets a Shadow Charge on Tyrael. No cleanse right now, but Tyrael teleports away.
Tyrael teleporting away, and also a big thing to note during that fight, when there was a dive onto Weary Day in front of the fort front gate right there, Weary Day was able to apply the Emerald to his Heraldric Cube and throw that out just as he was kind of getting pushed around as well, which is great because that also dissuades the side of Simplicity from advancing further into that lane, since the chain heals from Legacy would be mitigated by 75%. It's a little bit of a cooldown onto there, but Hanzo goes down in top lane. I didn't even see his health bar dropping at the top of the screen. That was just absolute annihilation. Great play from the side of WildHeart, getting a double kill in total onto the Hanzo. Probably?
Yeah, probably great play. Like, we didn't see it. So I didn't see it too.
They got a kill on unaverted. I see no world where I would, so it's definitely.
Yeah. I mean, technically, it could have been the second worst play in the world, but Hanzo made the worst play in the world. But I think he
stopped to type to his teammates and be like, "Oh man, why aren't you doing rotations? Why am I up here alone?"
And his mouse cursor went to the left, and he got tabbed out and stuff, and he walked into them. But yeah, probably not. I mean, if you see how dominant unaverted was last game, I'm gonna assume it was a great play. And next time we'll catch it. I was looking at the middle as well because of that Dahaka trap. It looked so promising. On Diablo, but he dodged it with a Shatter Charge into Lunara. And so as the game goes on, everyone reaches their level 10s. We get Dragon Pretzels, Ancestral Healing, Isolation, Sanctification, and Leaping Strike. And on WildHeart's side, we have Odin, Stay Wild Listen, Wailing Arrow, Falling Sword, and Apocalypse.
I like this priority into mid to try and take down the key rotational moment for a lot of these objective phases. But let's talk about the fight, because Hanzo finishes a Scatter Arrow. Stay Wild Listen does come out. Sanctification will be used by Masquerade. Mene trying to back away. The Null Pack getting decent damage onto the fort. Ancestral Healing will be applied by Legacy. Legacy steps forward to get the heal, but it's going to be Tychus to snipe the kill, and Masquerade will go down as well. Whoa. Oh my god, Mason Blaze, calm down, my dude, as he is going to find the double kill into the Lunara and the Tyrael, and we also saw that Rhaegar go down as well. A triple kill to the side of WildHeart. Might be able to take a look back at that replay at some point, but while they have this triple kill, I love what WildHeart's doing here, Grubby. Immediate attention to the top lane to start pushing. 13 seconds on Sylvanas Black Arrows.
I love how Mason Blaze is playing the Sylvanas here, man. He's very effective with it, going in, knowing how to go in. I mean, she's a character, but bringing some lethal damage. We can actually look at that sequence of events here that WildHeart managed so perfectly. Note the Masquerade. So there's going to be a play on Masquerade, and watch Deckard hitting the cube, the Emerald on Tyrael. That's going to mitigate much of Legacy's damage. Legacy steps in soon, in a second or two, to try and save Masquerade. In comes the Ancestral. Look at that, minus 75%. That Ancestral did nothing. And we don't have time to watch the rest of the kills, but that Emerald proves its value. Trigger that gem on the Heraldric Cube by Deckard, completely mitigated Ancestral Healing. Part of the reason why we're seeing Deckard here, which is kind of a niche pick, but it can be so effective with that level 7 talent.
There's so much to break down from that replay too, and I'm sure Justin can break down it as well, because it was actually Legacy stepping forward that actually was his demise. Legacy stepped forward for the Ancestral just to get in range to be able to cast it, and that was what allowed Tychus to chase in. But still, we'll have Justin break down more of these replays, more of these moments after Alterac Pass, because, ladies and gentlemen, this is a cavalry coming through the waves, the first cavalry of the game, and we already see 2 forts down, 3 forts should be falling in total, and this will start spawning Reaver minions. Alterac Pass is unique compared to the rest of Heroes of Storm maps because we do not summon catapults on these maps, we summon Reaver minions. They look a lot like the Gnolls, but they're a little bit bigger. They don't deal excess damage to structures like catapults, minions, range minions, etc. What the Reaver minions do is they tank a lot of damage. They have 50 physical and spell armor, which allows these waves to get pushed up and to shred through the advancing waves. So for anyone that's wondering why you might not see catapults, but you see this kind of weird lumbering hogger type dude, that is the difference on this map, and that is also the uniqueness that they bring to the table. Speaking of uniqueness, Alterac Pass is one of the other maps that has 2 bosses on it, the other being Cursed Hollow. Slug Hunter checking this, kind of feigning that he's got his friends with him, stepping forward, does have the Iron Skin available, but this will be boss traded. The boss in bottom threatens Fort Front Gate, boss in top threatening onto an exposed keep.
And that is such bigger value. So Simplicity, theoretically, they should like to fall back and defend the boss when it comes to pure structural trade comparison. They should also like the team fight, because 13-14 is better than waiting until WildHeart gets 16. But the final decisive factor is that every lane is pushed as well. So they stand to lose much when they go for a team fight that they don't end up winning. And like we said, they don't want to lose that keep. They don't want non-stop Reaver minions summoning on that top lane. Not only do those have extra armor, they also have about 66% more health than one of those grunt minions. That's the front melee minion. And how that affects the game effectively is catapults do a lot of damage. They've got that range, they've got splash. These Reaver minions, they allow massive buildup of ranged archer minions. That's kind of how that plays out. And sometimes that can just end up winning the game when there's like way too many of them. That's usually a bit later game, but it actually leads to probably more effective keep damage than a catapult itself ends up doing when ignored. So yeah, you don't want that permanent Reaver spam.
And, you know, while we're on the topic of just minion stats, why not? Melee minions, if you didn't know this, deal... Let's say the melee minions deal 20 damage. They deal triple that into structures. But range minions actually deal double the damage of melee minions. And then it's tripled into structures. So right now, like the archer minions, they deal 44 damage. And that's nearly 130, because we round in Here's a Storm. That's nearly 130 damage into structures. Where it's half that for the melee minions. So, little tidbit for all of you at home. Clear the ranged minions first. Those are actually the more detrimental minions in a wave. Melee minions can also be taken down faster by catapults, splash shots, etc. So, alright, we're done talking about minion damage stats and all that. Grubby, we have an objective phase here. We haven't heard from WildHeart. Maybe we jump in their comms, see how they're trying to play this objective phase?
You read my mind. Let's jump into it.
Look, don't even worry about that.
I'm coming.
Push mid.
Yep.
Just push mid. Fuck
Yeah,
that
push
wave.
They're
They're leaving
back.
top right now.
Back.
They just backed except to Haka. The Haka could dig. He could dig here or here.
Yeah, let them do their camp. I think we run at them if they do that. Okay, good.
Let me just siege bottom right now. I think it's better for us. We have a lot of space. Run to hit 16s as well.
It's not holy ground. I mean, it's never holy.
Oh, dig,
Bro.
dig.
I'm fine.
That's all. Just like us go.
Okay, I don't know where.
We fight this.
Go.
Fancy.
Massacre next, massacre.
I pull.
I'm on legacy only.
I'm fine. Okay, I have to kite.
Yep.
Many.
Nice, big.
Absolutely massive.
Yes. Careful, we're low. So.
Alright, we get this and we get double kicks.
This wasn't clear.
Yeah, we don't end here. We go mid right now.
No D, 20 seconds.
I'm still going aggro. I'm diving the shit. Ready? Keep asking. Brandon, no D. Yeah. I keep.
Nice.
Oh, I pull us out just as there's another fight, but actually it's just a sanctification from Masquerade. We heard the battle cries, Grubby, of WildHeart Esports, and I don't think we would have heard that in Map 1 and Tomb of the Spider Queen. Alterac Pass looking a lot healthier when it comes to the overall playstyle of our WildHeart crew.
Double keeps down. This is enormous. They're dropping the core HP down to just 20 armor. I should say the armor down to 20 armor. Tremor looks like he is at least considering sacrificing himself. I think he wanted the rest to disengage. This doesn't look like a fantastic fight for WildHeart. Maybe you just let Deckard go and the rest run. At this point, just limiting losses would be good. Nice isolation there on Janna. Pants going in on Blaze. Leaping Strike can't happen. A number of more people go down, perhaps slightly more than was necessary for WildHeart. But as the dust settles, Bahamut, 6 forts against 1 keep, still 1 level lead, and all Simplicity has the temporary numerical advantage.
Simplicity will be able to get Fort in top lane. Looking at boss timers, 20 seconds for top, 25 for bottom. So while there is the death timer of John and Deckard Cain for the few moments, and Diablo needing to build back his souls, we are going to see a null pack for the mid lane. Now Mene, Legacy, and Unaverted waiting around for the boss. But as I mentioned, not too long of a cooldown. Seems like this is just a read from WildHeart, because if we look at the WildHeart side of things, they're on the bottom of the map, and the expectation is, okay, that was Simplicity in top, they took our fort. The best guess is that they're going to go for that boss. Let's try and make something happen through bottom lane. And as mentioned, as from Grubby, the core did lose 20 armor from the top keep, 20 armor from the bottom keep. So only 20 armor remains on said core, which is typically where teams try and end. Yes. If you get all three down, that just makes your core siege, your end potential, astronomical. As we watched a couple times last weekend, it was almost like deja vu on this map last weekend, Grubby.
Yep, exactly. We had two. It was actually the generals that ended the core, but it was off the back of 2 or 3 keeps or so twice as the attacking team wiped. WildHeart not ready yet to push with this boss. They don't deem it to be powerful enough. It had a maximum health of 30,000 health. Definitely not something that's out of reach for a level 19 team to take down quickly enough for the self-regenerating core to be truly threatened. And WildHeart mitigated damage. They have the level 20s. They think win condition is using their half a level lead in order to get this objective. Odin will last 32 seconds, and the objective takes about 45. So it won't be up for the whole fight. They need to make something happen. There's a purge on Tyrael already. Masquerade got purged. That means the next engage can be brutal. Emerald gets used on Rhaegar, but he's still held on to Ancestral Healing. Good job by Legacy. Simplicity needs a little bit more time. Oh, that's a big nuke on Hanzo. There's the Ancestral.
Ancestral Healing, no Farseer's Blessing because no 20, but here comes the Apocalypse of the Diablo, Falling Sword from the Johanna coming in as well. Mene on the backline, trying to put pressure onto Zergling. Mene is going to be chased by Zergling, but Zergling turns and says, hello, Tyrael. This is going to be a double kill for the side of WildHeart, as that's Mason Blaze making the critical plays. We have Falling Sword again from the Johanna, a little bit of cleansing to the team, and this is going to be objective phase to the side of WildHeart. Stormy McStorm, Pike, Vandar's Cavalry will be running through these lanes, and will mid lane be the priority, or is it a quick end through bottom or top? It's WildHeart to make this decision. They got 20 to 30 seconds on the Tyrael and the Rhaegar. Things got to happen quick for our blue side. And a quick note, 29 seconds on Commandeer Odin, but it might not even be necessary to end game number 2.
It's going to be hard to call an MVP here for WildHeart. Tremor had some great engages. Weary Day had some fantastic emeralds and stay a whiles, and Mason Blaze was just ruthless on the Sylvanas. It does look like this is the finish them Mortal Kombat fatality sequence, because the generals are here, the core is dropping, it's 5 against 3, and WildHeart is looking to score the tiebreaker.
WildHeart find parity in the best of 5 lower bracket final, and this will be 1-1 in our map scores for this matchup. It is a critical matchup, as the loser of this matchup takes 3rd place in HeroesCCL, and that's the end of their run. The winner of this best of 5 series goes on later today into the grand finals, a weighted best of 7, where 30K will have 1 game advantage, and they will battle 30K. But that's for a future discussion. Let's get Justing back in the mix and break down everything that we saw Alterac pass.
That game was nearly WildHeart from start to finish. Even in the early game, they managed to get some early picks. Mason Blaze, I would say, is my MVP, even though it's not super obvious what he's doing, and sometimes we don't even see it because he's so sneaky. He just pumped out, his arrows were really on point. He just puts out consistent damage. He's willing to dive into the backline when he needs to. I think there was a standout performance by Mason Blaze, even though it's not as flashy as maybe some other roles might be. Really good emeralds also coming out from Deckard, Weary Day, playing the Deckard extremely well. I think that was a big difference between this game and the previous game, is the amount of value that he got on that Deckard pick was kind of insane. That's sort of what helped them to control the early games so well with their 3-man having the Deckard. And here we can actually see it highlighted in a little bit. We see the emerald about to come out here at the end of this clip, where it does completely negate that Ancestral, and it's just a really good counter into the Rhaegar with the Ancestral. He gets the baby Ancestral, it does nothing, and Masquerade goes down. So just well played and good thought process in the draft. And here's Mason just diving into the back line like I was talking about. Just really well played by WildHeart. And I had mentioned that their composition was very objective focused. It's very 5-man focused. And they played it really well. They did something a little bit interesting to me in the early game where they had the level 10 advantage, but they don't even go for the objective right away. I think that's because they were so confident that their composition would win every 5v5 on the objective that they didn't even need to force the objective because they knew that Simplicity would never force the objective on them. So instead they just pop the Odin, start fighting mid, and that was what actually kicked off that previous fight we had just saw, where that fight was WildHeart just saying, alright, you guys want to fight us? Come fight us. And they just use their Odin and just start sieging mid, like, knowing that Simplicity has to respond to that. And the team fighting from WildHeart was just much better this game. I think a big part of that was Mene on the Lunara did not seem to get nearly as much value as he can on the Falstad, both in the macro pressure of having a Falstad constantly split pushing, as well as in the team fights, not having that gust to have so much control, and Mene being such a intelligent player, not having that ability to completely split fights and have an ability that has so much impact in that gust really seemed to hurt their composition. And Masquerade on the Tyrael not getting the same value in the previous game, I think part of that is because there was no Mephisto on the other side, and also having the APOC for Tremor meant that Tremor could be a lot more of a bully to the Tyrael in that matchup, because Tyrael into Diablo on paper is a pretty bad matchup for the Tyrael, assuming that you have APOC, and in that game we saw it, because if Masquerade ever doesn't check his positioning perfectly, he can always just get comboed and taken down. Even with the cleanse from Rhaegar, it's not enough when you combo that with the Deckard CC as well. And just outside of that one minor flub where they got 3 for 0 top, I think they're having a little bit too much fun taking down that top keep. Pretty much just WildHeart in control from start to finish. And Simplicity not being able to find those windows like 30k has been able to when they've had these comps where they can't really fight a fair 5v5 on the objective. Simplicity not being able to find those windows and not being able to find any alternative win conditions outside of the objective. One last thing with WildHeart, their comms were very good, and it was cool to hear kind of the progression of their comms from the start of the season, where it was just Zergling and he was learning a new role and he was a little bit quiet, but he was trying to kind of micromanage everybody, to now, or well, to the middle of the season where it was just a free-for-all of comms where we heard every single person just speaking a ton, to now where it feels like a good balance where Zergling, you could tell that he was a bit angry after game 1. You could hear him being a pretty dominant force in the comms. It was nice to hear the shot caller that managed to qualify for the HGC back in the day in Zergling through the relegation. I've heard his comms before, and when Zergling is on point shot calling, he is a very good shot caller. He managed to break a team into the HGC back in the day, so it was good to hear that back and to hear the battle cries coming out. That was the moment where they won the game.
Man, you're making me nostalgic back in the Open Division days. That was oh man, that was a fun time. But either way, it is a fun time here on HeroesCCL. We've got a ton of action still in store for all of you at home. This series by no means is going to be over anytime soon. It sits 1-1 between WildHeart versus Simplicity in this knockout best-of-5 game. As I mentioned, winner goes on later today to our grand finals. We're going to take a short little break. In this break, I encourage you to do 2 special things. Exclamation point prize pool in chat. We'll get you over to the match arena if you'd like to donate towards the prize pool. I think the last time I looked at it, yeah, we're at $15,735 because of your generosity. Thank you everyone at home for pushing that prize pool further and further. Thank you all so much. Exclamation point prize pool in chat. And then, of course, as a reminder, the votes have been tallied. The votes are all in. And you know that Justin and I will be bringing you the amazing award show this upcoming Saturday, 7 days from now at the normal HeroesCCL start time. Exclamation point awards in chat should get you all the information for that upcoming broadcast. But as I said, we're going to take a short little break. When we come back, we're going to find out who starts to take the lead in this series and who starts to kind of fall behind. Don't go anywhere. This is HeroesCCL presented by Wisdom. How do I get better at this game? How do I get as good as a CCL player?
Just give it up, Baha.
What were you thinking?
Bahamut, you're never gonna win.
The CCL players, they're really good. They're in CCL. So I just need the CCL merch to be as good as the CCL players. Oh man, there's some really cool stuff in here. But I don't have time to wait. I need my wins now. I'm gonna make my own CCL merch. That'll get me the wins that I need. Now that I have my own merch, I can win every single hero. Even with my own amazing homemade merch, I'm still not winning. I have to get the real deal. Oh yeah, this is, oh, gotta get one of these. Gotta get one of these. It is cold outside, so we're gonna get that new season pullover. Oh yeah. Now to purchase my game-winning apparel from HeroesCCL merch. Wow, now that I have this new HeroesCCL apparel, I might as well try out and play some Heroes of the Storm games and see if I can maybe win a little few extra. Ooh.
Yes! I'm winning! We're winning!
You can win every single game you play in Heroes of the Storm with HeroesCCL Season 3 merch. Wisdom Gaming and HeroesCCL are not responsible for any Storm League points lost or given away to enemies that are better than you. Welcome back to HeroesCCL. We've had some riveting conversations in our break about, well, are peanuts nuts or are they seeds? We'll have to figure that out. I'm sure Twitch chat knows the answer to that one. But we are in this best of 5 series, and I don't want to wait. I got Justin, I got Grubby with me. Let's find out where we're going to go to for map number 3, because I am excited to get already into our next map in this series. It's also because I know which map it's going to be, because it's going to be Towers of Doom, Grubby, chosen by WildHeart Esports. I love this map. Heavily competitive. Not a quick map where people just get, rush to core and end the game, as WildHeart have a record of 4-2 on this map, Simplicity 2-3. But of course, Grubby, any thoughts on Towers of Doom for map 3 in this best of 5?
Well, it sounds like a good map win rate here for WildHeart, so maybe they are more likely to go for the 2-1 victory here. Towers of Doom, the one map where you can't go straight for the core. Well, I guess on Alterac you can, but you don't want to, so you could say that you can't. But here you actually can't, as the tower line will eject you while pelting you with cannonballs. Here the core has 40 HP and it can be taken down by one shot from a number of different sources that can be fired upon the core with. So it's a great comeback map. We know it as one of the coolest competitive maps because of its unique mechanics. And some of the top picks here are Brightwing, Falstad, and Dahaka for their global power, Junkrat for his ability to take the sappers and control space, Diablo to control rotations via mid and bot. Yeah, those are some of the best picks.
I do like that we actually had a little bit of like a Jaina resurgence on this map when we had our last patch for the game, where she kind of had that Ice Lance upgrade, and people were like, well, maybe she has more poke potential for this map. But then it's like, well, why not draft Junkrat or Hanzo or Sylvanas or Falstad? Like, why not just draft someone else who's kind of a little bit better? But anyway, sorry. Our tangents aside on maps and such like that, Justin, of course, we need you to start reeling things in for Grubby and I, get control of this broadcast, and start breaking down everything for Towers of Doom when it comes to this draft.
Rhaegar. Oh, there's the Rhaegar. So not a huge surprise on the first pick. Legacy's been playing really well with it so far. Something that is a bit different here is we do see the Vala coming out for WildHeart. Something that I've given Mason Blaze quite a bit of praise for in the past. He might be the best Vala we have in the CCL. He's just insane on it. His mechanics are phenomenal. He dodges everything. But the Diablo is picked away from WildHeart. Because it is interesting to see the Stitches being permanently banned out on the one side and the Falstad on the other. That's respect for Mene and Tremor, respectively. And this time, though, WildHeart not getting the Diablo in exchange for that. Simplicity being able to actually take that away here. It'll be curious to see what WildHeart goes with. It might be the Garrosh for Tremor. It could be something different. I wouldn't be surprised to see another tank ban here from Simplicity against Tremor. And there is the Garrosh banned out, so we'll have to see what he's got in store. His Muradin has looked very good in the past. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And we just have Comfort for Simplicity as well. We have Unaverted getting his Hanzo. Nothing too telling in the draft so far, but that does mean that Anduin is up for WildHeart if they want it, and they do.
This was actually...
Anduin,
yeah, please.
Why Anduin and not Deckard to counter Ancestral again with Emerald?
The main thing is that Anduin is the best solo support to run with Vala. Vala, very unsafe, and the pull from Anduin provides the same type of protection that a Medivh, Portal, and Protect would. So there's that, and also just the single target healing from Anduin's Q on the Vala just allows her to constantly pump out DPS. It's just for the combination with the Vala mainly.
Chromie coming out. I was actually wondering about this, and of course, thank you, Justin, for breaking down why the Anduin. But it was just like, I was actually sitting there and I was like, I wonder if they try and steal away Mene Zagara since they did not ban it out. And this has been a case in the past with WildHeart versus Simplicity in the upper bracket semis, and now we're seeing it kind of once again. But of course, we are going to see a Tyrael for the side of WildHeart. I don't know if WildHeart has played it this season. I'd have to go dig through my notes, but either way, I got to get your thoughts here, Justin, because I will be honest, the WildHeart draft does seem a little... I'm a little nervous for WildHeart. There is the Zagara value at 16 plus, but like I feel like Simplicity have like way too many devastating tools.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit more difficult than last game to play around the objectives. They don't have quite the same amount of control that they had on Alterac. Here we have Mene who can go into either ultimate, but also just being able to kind of constantly throw those Chromie combos out around the objective makes it very scary to channel them. They also got the Blaze very late in the draft, which isn't super characteristic as of late. Typically, Blaze has been seen as kind of the premier offlane hero out of all of them. So being able to get a Blaze on the last two picks for them is really huge. The Zagara being picked away from Mene is interesting, and it will do well at level 16, playing around the objectives into Diablo and Blaze, some of the highest HP pool heroes in the game. And a lot of it is going to come down to Mason on that Vala. Being able to kind of get any damage in against the Hanzo and Chromie, it's a lot of range advantage for the Hanzo and Chromie. So Mason's going to have to be sidestepping out of his mind if he wants to be able to get in to do any damage, especially when he has a Tyrael Dahaka frontline. Tyrael, not really the frontliner you want with Vala. Typically, you don't have that kind of imposing presence that you have when you're something like a Diablo, where the threat of CC is always there, or a Muradin who can kind of just stand his ground in front of her. You have a much more defensive tank that is kind of going to look to counter engage with that Sanct. So things might be a little bit more difficult this game for WildHeart just based on the draft.
Well, we've loaded on in, Justin. Thank you as always for your analysis and your breakdown, because we are here onto Towers of Doom, and on the left-hand side, backed by the Robin Lord, we have got WildHeart Esports, Zergling on the Zagara, Slug Hunter on the Dahaka, Tremor on the Tyrael, Weary Day on the Anduin, and Mason Blaze to play the Vala. Over on the right, backed by the Grove Keeper, we've got Simplicity, Unaverted on the Hanzo, Masquerade on the Diablo, Mene on the Chromie, Legacy on the Rhaegar, and Fancy Pants on the Blaze. We are going to be seeing this mid lane matchup. I'm already kind of calling for... I'm leaning into Simplicity. I feel like just like in the last game when we were listening to WildHeart comms, I think they're coming back with the fire and the vengeance, and quite literally some big damage from Chromie. Mene on a mage is always something we like to see, and Masquerade on Diablo is not something to scoff at, as well as Legacy. He's been playing a lot of Rhaegar today. Yeah, I know they lost the last game, but I think there was a lot of critical moments from Weary Day with the anti-healing to shut down Legacy. So I feel like Simplicity can take this one, but of course, Grubby, what do you think about these two drafts? As we have engagement on a Tremor, but I don't think he's threatened.
I feel like normally I feel like there's a fairly big advantage here for Simplicity. As a Vala, I'd be terrified to play into a Hanzo Chromie. They have the greater burst, they have got the greater range, and it would just be hard to really affect them. At the same time, I respect Justin's evaluation of his skill level, so maybe there is a chance, but I'm leaning towards Simplicity.
All right, well, Grubby and I have agreed on this this one factor, so that obviously means that Simplicity will win. But Simplicity, they're going to go for this invade onto the camp. It will be seen because there are creep tumors on the ground from Zagara. Mene very far forward. Pants comes in with a jet propulsion. Tremor trying to jump in and make something happen. Speaking of jumping in and making things happen, we have Dahaka in the back line setting up the kill. And right there, Grubby, we are going to be seeing First Blood. I thought that was pretty good. At least I hope it was. Third Blood is going to be coming through, and WildHeart are really saying that, Grubby, Bahamut, you're completely wrong. You're out of your minds. We have got the aggression. We have got the tools, and we are the ones who will find, overall, a triple kill sub 2 minutes.
Yeah. Wait. Was that triple kill?
Yeah. Diablo went down.
Oh yeah. Second, third,
Right.
okay. Yo, excellent. WildHeart. So what was really cool is they're seeing that Anduin pay off. After asking, Justin about it, it wasn't used on Vala, but it was used on Zagara. That mitigated Masquerade's kill. Then in came Dahaka. It was, of course, Slug Hunter. He got the Drag Tongue on Chromie, kept her there. He nearly died, but you're not allowed to burrow as Dahaka while your tongue is still out.
Yes.
Tongue finally went down. He burrows. Now he's safe. The damage was closed in on Diablo, and then suddenly it felt like WildHeart was coming at them from every side because they were. And nice opening for them there.
It's a strong opening, and we also get to see this Dahaka play. I will be honest, that was a really good start. Triple altar phase is going to be the start of... Oh, wait, hold on. Zergling might have just gotten dove and blown up. That is what Simplicity needs to rally when it comes to the experience that was gained by the side of WildHeart. But still, we're seeing roughly 600 experience deficit in favor for Simplicity, as it seems like we're going to have a slight... We're going to figure out what's going on with the moment here, and... sorry, it looks like it was a, just to be transparent with all of you immediately, it was a mini DC. The player is back in, so we're going to get right back into the game here in just a second. Now, while we're getting everything, the countdown, all that going here, Towers of Doom, altar phases. A lot of maps have standardized objective phases. Battlefield of Eternity is, north and south. Sky Temple is top and mid. Battlefield of Eternity, top, left, and right will always spawn. The RNG in all of this is whether it will be in mid area where it just spawned and we saw Legacy get those 4 shots, or in the bottommost part of the map. That is the only RNG per se for this first objective. And Grubby, dare I say, I think the mid area is a little bit better because you have more kind of options to cycle in and out of the engagement, whether it be from solo lane down from mid lane or even rotating in from bottom lane to poke in as well. Whereas bottom, it's kind of like that top lane objective on Battlefield where everything's kind of in that moon shape area where you only have a couple entry points.
Yeah, it feels like such an island when it's all the way at the bottom, and it reduces tactics availability for non-global teams for sure. I think you're right on the money with that. Now, despite the first kills going to WildHeart, it doesn't seem like Simplicity has suffered any kind of setback in this game. That one kill they got in return, plus the Blaze solo double laning value, has seen Simplicity draw even in terms of experience. Mene sets up a trap in that kind of under the smoke screen, might come in nicely. It should also be noted that Mene has gone for a non-traditional build. Everyone goes for that bonus vision at level 1. It would have helped to see creep tumors and ganks from Dahaka. And you get some spell power. And you get faster arming time for the traps. But Mene has gone for the Dragon Breath build, which gives bonus damage, reduces cooldown, and gives a mana cost reduction. And then at level 7, extra bonus damage in the center, and a large slow for a short period of time in the center as well. So this is all about that burst. If he can get a nice setup from Dragon Arrow, Temporal Loop even, which he has got, he can land the Dragon Breath on top, but there was a cleanse. Wait,
and also,
there must have been a cleanse, yeah.
More to even to break down with all of that talenting, but let's look at the fight right now. Mason Blaze is going to get pushed around. There's going to be a drag tongue onto one of the players. That's going to be the Rhaegar. Legacy needs to back away at like 25% HP. Single altar phase already being channeled by Dahaka in the mid area, as Hanzo should get one delay onto him, and Dahaka moves into mid. A little bit of an experience gap starting to form in favor for Simplicity, even though they did have, even though WildHeart had more kills. It's just rotations are a little bit faster, but that's already been mitigated through the mid push from Slug Hunter. 10 Talontiers looming on both sides. Legacy split by Mason Blaze. That is not where Legacy wants to be whatsoever. Ooh. Any hungering arrows? No hungering arrows to be utilized. I'm going to look really quickly. It was on cooldown, just now coming off a cooldown. Shots do rain into the side of Simplicity. We sit 32 to 32 in core HP, 9.5 or so for both these teams. 10 Talontiers about to come through, and the big thing to note as well is some of these questing talents. We got 3 out of 12 for the Bile Drop for Zagara, 4 out of 10 for the Enhanced Agility. No piercing light stacks just yet. 19 on the Puncturing Arrow. That's multiply that by 6, and then you also have some baseline damage. We'll look at that a little bit later. Hanzo, Simple Geometry, already done. We do have Black Soulstone for the Diablo, his baseline souls, 92 out of 100. Deep Breathing already done. And the one thing I want to note while we are discussing Chromie talents is also time troubles for the Chromie at level 4 or 2, however you want to look at her talents. When she time stops an enemy, they lose 15 armor. When she time stops an ally, they gain 30 armor. So, little bit of a benefit right there. But I agree with you, Grubby. A little interesting. The build that we see Mene going into seems like it is for that single target deletion, maybe even off of a time trap with the reduced armor. Hanzo can play into that with some auto attack damage. But a lot of cool stuff to break down when it comes to heroics. The big thing to note here, look at that Anduin. Look at that Anduin. Holy word salvation.
Wow. Yeah, I just tried that in ARAM. It's really cool. And when you get the full channel at level 20 and you upgrade it, you can get a 20-second cooldown on it. And everyone is invulnerable to crowd control effects as well. Well, that's a triple. Wow, don't walk in a straight line.
Headshot.
He wanted to go away from Simplicity, but he just took 3 Dragon's Breath. Mene is getting like thousands of points of damage. Arrow finishes him. There's another kill for Simplicity.
Blaze, actually, if you look at the minimap, is going to the top left of our screen here. Looking at Slug Hunter really quickly, he doesn't have Brush Talk for 54 seconds. Blaze should get this for free.
Wow. Wow, nice job here for Simplicity. Yep, he just got it in time. He does get rooted, Jet Propulsion got interrupted, but Pyromania actually saves him from a large brunt of that damage. It's 40 armor on demand on a relatively long cooldown. That's just one of the many ways that Blaze can keep himself safe. Simplicity takes the untakeable altar on the enemy side of the map that normally is out of reach. But with that kill on Zagara, with the distraction, he was able to, Blaze was able to take that. Pants was able to take that.
Oh, I absolutely love what we just saw from Simplicity and that aggression. And also just the overall macro and communication. You know that they were saying, okay, us, the bottom side of Simplicity, will go ahead and keep people from rotating. And meanwhile, Blaze was like, hey, gonna get the double channel, gonna get myself a lot of points here. And speaking of points, I want to look at points of damage really quickly. We have 29,000 rounding up for Mason Blaze. Hanzo Arrow doesn't connect onto anyone right there. And actually, we can take a pause on some of that damage because a fight might break out in bottom lane. Maybe the Sapper should be forced in.
And Diablo wanted to find a mark there, but the Hawkeye is still double laning. He's trying to farm level 13 for WildHeart here. And, this draft that WildHeart has with their heroic choices, Sanctification and Salvation, reminds me a lot of a Dark Horror WTF moment that I just recently saw. One of the recent episodes. They went for Sanctification and Mass D-Shield from Uther's level 20, and for Holy Word Salvation. 3 layers of invulnerability / protection that together they went core with. Kind of Juice Pirates without the medevac. Really cool. A kill here on Hanzo. Nice drag tongue.
Yeah.
What was he doing there by himself? One may wonder, but you don't need to wonder anymore. He's gone.
He basically got turned into juice right there, and Diablo is going to be losing his souls. Yes, he will be losing his soul's legacy. Bud, that's not the direction of your
wrong core. Imagine getting away though. Nope.
Yeah, you said that, and I glanced down, and then I saw a holy ground from Tyrael, and I go, yeah, no. So actually, I was gonna say they're gonna deal 8 points of damage, but it seems like they're gonna go for I wouldn't say this is greedy. The tactical play. They're going to look for 10 shots, time stop onto 2, but this does give time for Rhaegar to respawn. Diablo is already back in position. Bottom lane fort does fall. Zagara goes for the channel on bottom. Now Slug Hunter, very low. As you mentioned, Grubby, you cannot burrow. You cannot use your E onto Haka when you're dragging. So if Chromie landed some decent damage, Slug Hunter would have been stuck for that. But still, 5 shots rain into the Simplicity core. WildHeart looking to take advantage. If they can get these 5 shots, it'll be 24-22. But Rhaegar's back in the mix. Is Rhaegar heading top? Okay, no, he's heading into the engagement. I was like, where are you going on the minimap there? Mason Blaze working on a camp. Ooh, it's tense right now, Grubby.
Yeah, if it's Storm League, absolutely. If nobody's solo laning, I'll do it then as the healer. But no, not quite here. He's coming in here. It's equal levels, actually, Bahamut. After all is said and done, we've got the same experience. In comes the Dragon Arrow, blocked by Tremor. Short cooldown. There's a drag tongue on Diablo. He's got a soul count of just 8, so he's not that survivable. Maul on Rhaegar, he's got an Ancestral Healing on a 15-second cooldown. We do have Tyrael, Anduin ult still available, as well as Vala. But this looks like a really good protective cordon by Simplicity, and it seems hard to break through for WildHeart.
WildHeart trying to step up here. Rhaegar going for the channel in Ghost War form, but there's the Ancestral Healing on to Unaverted. We do have the Apocalypse from the Diablo as this Temporal Loop connects on to Tyrael, who pops the Sanctification, overlapped by the Holy Word Salvation of Anduin. Time Stop onto the Dahaka. Might have actually saved him from some of the incoming damage from, quite literally, Mene. Mene actually saved his target. Legacy going for the channel right now, and it seems like it is going to be 3 shots into the core of WildHeart. While they can't find the double channel for 10 damage in total, it is still 5 into the side of Simplicity, 3 into the side of WildHeart. Simplicity ahead, but not by much.
Not by much at all, just a little bit of XP, which is interesting considering that there's been more fort control for WildHeart and they've got more kills. Just goes to show what Blaze has been doing and how WildHeart has been using the Haka, not just for the double lane, but for a superior team fight. Person advantage. Going 5v4, sacrifice a double lane experience advantage. It maybe has helped WildHeart to nab a few kills here and there. Simplicity, they're working hard on taking down that fort. In comes Dragon Breath number 1. Number 2, they're able to siege this down from quite far. Core damage-wise, 21-24. We have an extremely even and open game here on Towers of Doom.
Looking at the back and forth experience between both these teams, Heroic, yeah, there's about 3,000 deficit in favor for WildHeart, but if we look at the minion experience breakdown, about 28,000 to about 33,000, so that is really like Simplicity really ahead when it comes to minion soaking, but also Simplicity has a jump in experience as well from Structures, as they've got 3,300 to the WildHeart of 1,950. But triple altar phase, it's quite chaotic potentially. Maybe we listen on some comms as how they play this triple altar phase, Grubby? Any team you want to listen in on?
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Let's hear from Simplicity.
In we go.
It's fine. We're playing bottom. We need to be here. We bottom. It's fine if they get boss.
Oh, we just might lose both. Okay.
Blaze can stall. Tyrael's bottom.
I know. Can you get the 18 for me, maybe? Oh, no way.
Maybe.
He's not capping
yet. Get 18, it's a massive shot.
Okay, I pressure cap. Tyrael has to step in to stall.
I have a trap for the Akai.
Okay. He's gonna dig in about 5.
Yeah,
I don't think
we back up and we just play stalls.
Hold wave, hold wave.
I'm getting 1 wave
hit the box,
for 18.
I don't have my W to stall. Someone has to do.
I got it.
Care for getting...
Hit the box.
Yeah.
He dug.
I can't stall.
I can't go on him.
I think I just stalled.
Fight.
I didn't do it.
I said...
One Anduin.
It's fine.
I see one Anduin, it's massive.
Nice!
That's massive.
Oh yeah!
What are we doing now?
Alright.
We take
We
bots.
push.
Yeah.
Nice.
Make sure you don't die. 20.
Are we...
A fantastic time to jump into Simplicity comms, as not only do we get to hear the WildHeart war cries today, but also Simplicity seems to have a few of their own.
I didn't know that it's Thanksgiving on both sides here. Simplicity hitting them back there.
Mason.
Sorry. Mason is so low, does have a bit of that gloom spell power. Oh my god! The turnaround on the Haka. Simplicity is vibing here. The war cry, the kills, the stall. The stall actually didn't end up working out, but WildHeart, for some reason, after getting the objective, they stepped up to try and fight, and I'm not 100% sure where that's coming from. I guess they figured Blaze isn't here yet, but then he did come in with that explosive, decisive jet propulsion on Anduin. I'm on Anduin, we heard. In came the unerring Dragon Arrow, and now Simplicity is looking slated to maybe take this. They're in such a good spot.
We're getting a barrage.
Yeah, barrage at this point. Wow. 15 minutes into the game. There's one core shot. They're buying as much time as they can. Going in on Tyrael. Tremor is getting comboed.
This actually could end game if Simplicity delays long enough, because here's the thing, chat, if you didn't know this, the core shots actually, I believe it's after 7 or 8 of these repetitive core shots, it actually starts to speed up. For right now, keep your eye on that minimap. You'll see the missile connect from core to core, and then a new one fires. There's going to be a point, if this continues, where it will non-stop be firing. It actually speeds up. And right now, Simplicity are doing something that we rarely see in HeroesCCL. Simplicity have the barrage going. Still, the mid lane tower has a sliver of HP. It is going to be Dahaka going down. The core shots, they're still raining in faster and faster, but it is going to stop at 10. But it doesn't matter that the core shot stopped at 10 HP for the side of WildHeart. It matters that Simplicity just found a triple kill, and it's GG.
Yeah.
And it's GG.
Yeah. Blaze is unstoppable, Boss is unstoppable, Simplicity just went core on Towers of Doom, and that's impossible.
Dear Lord.
And they just did it.
I got like that's going in my highlight reel. Like, holy crap, was that was a surgical Towers of Doom game. Like, it was a slow start for Simplicity. They got picked off a couple times here and there, but it was almost like they were dissecting, I guess we'll stay on the surgical topic of all this. They were dissecting what WildHeart had, and slowly but surely WildHeart, they overextend in bottom lane with Slug Hunter with the Dahaka Brush Shock, isolation chases in, Anduin split as well, and then the total map control from Simplicity of just pressing each lane, constantly rotating, getting minion experience, and I'm sure, Justin, you saw way more than we did in this 6 to 9 kill game.
Yeah, things really got out of control there at the end. For the side of WildHeart, Simplicity popping off with that, just they get the turning point was really when they get that huge 3-man arrow APOC combo bottom, where they get a 3-for-0, which ends up being a 4-for-0 when they end up picking Dahaka, Slug Hunter on Dahaka later on. They convert instantly into the triple cap. That is something that we've pretty much never seen before. What they just did, they got all 3 forts immediately off of their 3-for-0 fight bottom, and just managed to hold them so well. The composition of Simplicity really just favors that type of position too, where they're able to play around an objective and defend it in those forts. Having that range advantage with the Hanzo, with the Chromie, just pumping out damage from super far away, it makes it very hard for the much shorter ranged heroes on the side of WildHeart, with the Zagara and the Vala, to be able to even take their own forts back. And we saw that they were desperate to try to get it bottom, and Simplicity actually managed to defend their bot fort in that situation. And then WildHeart had to try again mid, which they do end up getting it, but at that point it's too late. They already gave up 3 members for it. This is the moment where Simplicity basically wins the game. Here comes the arrow APOC. This is the turning point of the game. Here it comes. Boom. Just insane combo. Neither Sanct or the Anduin ult was able to come out in time. Just insane combo. And just based off of this fight, they go from 17 to 16 in shots. They managed to get the triple cap, and through holding the triple cap for a long enough time for the altars to spawn and for boss to be up, they take it from 16 shots all the way to 0. So just insane finish for Simplicity. It really looked like this game was mostly WildHeart favored for the majority of the game up until that critical moment bot with the triple kill and pushing your advantage insanely hard here. You could tell that WildHeart just so desperate in this situation trying to defend their mid fort that they do lose 3, and just the range advantage was really coming into play late game between the Hanzo and the Chromie. It's really difficult for anyone on the side of WildHeart to ever really get in range. As long as Simplicity can keep kiting back like they were, never allowing a real hard engage to come through, they can just kind of play at this range where WildHeart can't hit them back. And something to be a little critical of for WildHeart is, well, it did feel like WildHeart was winning the early game. Zergling got picked before the first objective, so they didn't get the majority of shots there. He gets picked before the second objective, so they don't get the shots there. And there was only one time where WildHeart got a pick on the Unaverted, where they actually do get the shot advantage, and even then, they were a bit greedy. They went for the bot fort instead of capping one of them first, and then they end up actually losing the second altar that they were fighting for. So they got 5 shots, but they traded it away for 3, instead of just taking 8 or taking 9 by taking one without the fort and then taking the other one with the fort. Just really insane close to the game from Simplicity, and good combos when they really needed it in that late game. Well played by Simplicity.
Simplicity with the mental, I would say the mentals today, like Simplicity really does look a lot like very comfortable. Yeah, the Alterac pass map was very in favor for WildHeart, but I feel like that was a small stumble in comparison to what we've seen today. And I want to be blunt with both of you. I'm really curious, and I'll start with Grubby. Do you think Simplicity can close things out on this next map? And we'll find out that map in a little bit here, but just as we've seen the momentum, I just want to talk about the general feeling of these teams. Grubby, do you think that WildHeart could get shut down here, or can they rally? Because Simplicity looked extremely dominant on Towers of Doom. I don't even think extremely dominant even encompasses what we just saw.
Yeah, sometimes I have quite a strong instinct about who is playing better and who is likely to win the game off of what we've seen so far, with an exception to the map score being a particularly good draft for one team or the other. But right now, I feel like both teams have looked dominant when they won their game. Like game 2, WildHeart was like absolutely crushing it. So I do feel like it comes down a lot to the draft. We kind of predicted Vala to struggle into Hanzo Chromie, and it came to pass. In game 1, prediction also it went along where Tyrael was going to be effective. Then in game 2, it was like solo Tyrael, not the same situation, and then no Dragon Arrow to follow up or to do like a big engage for a solo tank Tyrael. It was Dragon Strike. And I feel like so far it has kind of gone along the lines of expectations. Not really one team severely outskilling the other, but according to the draft picks, the talent picks, and so on and so forth. We had a weird pick here from Anduin where it wasn't Light Bomb, but it was Salvation, and I don't think it was really very effective.
Okay.
Maybe we get to pick his brain about why he went for that if they end up winning and we have them in the winner's interview. But at this time, I would say it is still wide open, and I think WildHeart could do the same thing that was just done to them if the draft goes well.
I want to pose the same question to Justin, but first, before I actually pose that question, let's actually find out where we're going to for map number 4, which could be the final map of the day. This will be the map choice of Simplicity, taking us to Infernal Shrines, as WildHeart has opted in for first pick priority. And before, of course, as I want to get Justin's big thoughts on this as well, map scores, because I'm sure people want to know these things. WildHeart, 50% win rate, 1 win, 1 loss. The side of Simplicity, 5 wins, 0 losses. And I don't know if that influences anything for you here, Justin, but I still want to, of course, get your thoughts on what could potentially happen here going into map number 4.
Yeah, definitely some scary map results for WildHeart here, going into the 5-0 Titan of Simplicity on this map. This map, stylistically, should be pretty good for WildHeart, because it is a map where you're able to just go for 5v5 team fights and be really grouped together. But something also that's a little weird is that the team that's picked the map has lost on the map they picked each game so far. So if the trend continues in this series, right? So if the trend continues,
you're right, yeah.
Simplicity should lose, and we should go to a game 5 because they did pick this map. They did pick Infernal Shrines.
Do we need to turn down the copium a little bit?
I'm just saying, statistically, it's likely that we go to a game 5 based off the previous results from this current series.
I believe it.
There's definitely, I agree with Grubby that both these teams do seem to be very similarly matched in skill, and a lot of it has come down to the draft and maybe just 1 or 2 standout plays from either team that really snowballs the game in their favor. So definitely could potentially be seeing a game 5 situation. It's cool to see Simplicity have multiple playstyles. They have their kind of defensive counter-engage style that has worked for them. But that last game wasn't the first time that we've seen this long-range poke-oriented style as well. They've done it before with the Zagara Chromie. So it is cool to see that they have sort of these multiple game plans planned out depending on what the enemy picks.
Well, we're into a map number 4, Infernal Shrines. I tweeted out this morning when I literally woke up. I woke up and I was just like, I want 11 maps today. So that's where I'm at. I personally want this to go to a game 5. I really don't have a horse in the race, and I just really want as many Heroes of the Storm games as possible today. It's our final day of HeroesCCL Season 3, so like that's all I could desire. But anyways, my desires aside, we've got a lot to break down already, and I'm sure, Grubby, you've got a few thoughts on what's unfolded so far for Infernal Shrine's rotational heavy base draft.
Simplicity had a difficult choice to make. Let first pick Johanna, which was likely come out again, giving the Johanna-Diablo combination that was so powerful and instrumental to WildHeart's victory on Alterac Pass, or to ban the Tremor Stitches again. They decided to keep things level and not go against isolation pick-off from afar. They banned the Stitches, which has allowed the Johanna into the predictable Diablo Sylvanas again, which WildHeart has been running. This was a very strong formula for WildHeart. In that game, Simplicity had solo tank Tyrael. They also had a Hanzo with pretzels instead of the Dragon Arrow that can stun, and can be an additional form of engage, which Tyrael sometimes can struggle with. Simplicity now has a choice to go with a second side laner that can engage, or they can have Hanzo go Arrow instead of pretzels. These are some of the choices that they have to make. But whatever they have to do, this is potentially match point for them. They can get that victory, and they have got their 4th Rhaegar in a row.
Doesn't seem like WildHeart's too afraid of the Rhaegar, and we have seen some decent play from from Legacy in general. Sorry, I was thinking about what we could potentially see, and it's going to be that Leoric Murden, which synergizes with potential Dragon's Arrow as well, that big AoE stun, or even Dragon Strike for just locking someone down. But adjusting out, as we're going to get into these last few picks, I want to pose something to you. Do you think we could just see the same draft from WildHeart onto this map here with the Deckard K? Oh, Medivh. Okay, that changes things up a lot more. Okay. All right.
Whoa! Kael'thas.
Convection? Yeah, convection!
Yeah.
Never from Mena, he's a safe player. But Medivh, love it, hate it. What do you think, Justin?
Please, yeah.
I definitely like it. They do have the Deckard with the CC to pair with it. It's a pretty good support to pair with it. I'm a little surprised that they didn't go with the Stukov. It seems WildHeart is allergic to squid or something. They just don't pick Stukov. Even when they're going Medivh, I think that's a little strange. It's such a strong pairing, so to see them forego that is a little strange. I think they're putting more priority onto the Emerald, into the Ancestral from Rhaegar.
Okay.
And then you have a counter pick coming out from Mene Kael'thas. I can't imagine that Mene Kael'thas, or well, any Kael'thas, is really going to have too much fun into the comp that WildHeart has drafted. I'm not really sure why they picked it. I'm sure they're about to show us why they picked it. It is Mene, and it is a Mene special, one of his best mages from the past. But I can't help but feel that that might struggle to get a little bit of value. The HP pools from WildHeart are quite high, and you combine that with the ability to be portaled on at any moment if he positions poorly even a little bit. So yeah, it might be a bit tough for Mene on Kael'thas to get a lot of value here. You can't really go Pyroblast either into Medivh. Protect too easy to just protect that and negate that entirely, so I'm expecting we'll see Phoenix. And probably just a lot of emphasis on Shrine control for the side of Simplicity. That kind of seems to be what they're going with. They have the potential for Dragon Pretzel in Tomb, and just a lot of spread damage onto the Shrine. They have the Kael'thas stuff on the Shrine, they have the Hanzo with the Scatters and the Explosion Q at level 4 on the Shrine. You have Rhaegar with Lightning Bond. You just have a lot of control for the Shrine, for killing the Shrine minions themselves for Simplicity. Whereas WildHeart doesn't have quite as much. They're going to be killing Simplicity to win the Shrines. They need to fight heroes to win. And just very different styles coming out. I'd say on paper, WildHeart's comp is a little bit better. They might lack damage, or they might have on a previous patch, but possibly not on this patch, with Johanna getting that big power spike at 16, becoming a bit of a demon, just doing a ton of damage when she's supported. So we'll see if Johanna is a valid substitute for what in previous drafts like this would need to be something like a Malthael or a Sonya. So it's kind of strange to see Johanna fill that role potentially. And we'll see if they're able to, if WildHeart is able to have enough damage to actually get any kills in the fights.
Yeah, it is going to be a very, very interesting matchup between both these teams. I'm hard pressed to kind of lean away from a Medivh in general. I think that there's just so much counter burst that is available with said Medivh, as well as just the overall healing from our Deckard Cain, and even just counter healing from Deckard Cain, as we saw on Alterac Pass. But Justin, as always, thank you for your analysis, your breakdown. We are here ready to go into map number 4. What could be the final map between these two teams in HeroesCCL Season 3? And on the left-hand side, on our Heavenly Haven, we've got WildHeart Esports, Zergling on the Medivh, Mason Blaze on the Sylvanas, Deckard Cain to be played by Weary Day, Tremor on the Diablo, and Slug Hunter to play the Joanna. Over on the hellish hellscape, I guess you could say, we have Simplicity. We have got Mene on the Kael'thas, Masquerade on the Muradin, Legacy on the Rhaegar, Pants on the Leoric, and Unaverted on the Hanzo. I see a little bit of logic with the Kael'thas. His wave clear between rotations is strong. He can build a lot of the level 1 mana addict stacks. He can get his 20 stacks very quickly, and then he can build upon that further because this is an uncapped quest, building his maximum mana by 15 per stack, which we can let you know later on how far that's gone. And like his shrine clear is good. The ability to spread the Living Bomb around is really great. He could go into the Ignite as well late game. So I think there's a lot of cool potential with the Kael'thas. And little fun fact, this is the 3rd Kael'thas overall in HeroesCCL Season 3. We were looking at the stats a little bit ago. So actually, funny enough, it was only ran against Chili Mountain in the 2 previous times, specifically from 2 different teams. But anyways, Grubby, I'm leaning into a WildHeart Esports win. Not only do I want the map number 5, but I think WildHeart Esports, they do have a strong draft. They've executed with things like this before, and Medivh X Factor pushes this beyond for me. But of course, Grubby, what are your thoughts as we get into rotations and wait for our top lane Frozen Punisher to start?
I'm with you this time, man. I think it's going to be a 2-2 this draft. Synergy between Diablo and Medivh is insane. Decker to counter the Rhaegar and Johanna to protect the Diablo. All in all, I think it's a fantastic draft. Very strong and quite a bit stronger than Simplicity's. Despite all that, it's still nice to see Menace Kael'thas coming up. But I've got one thing to say. You're honorable, Bahamut. Convection overruled.
I know. I mean, I'm a man who can dream for a bad talent. And the crazy thing is, anytime I play Convection, it's like I constantly struggle with mana. It's weird. It's you know what we need, Grubby? We need a Kael'thas buff. Like, we haven't had a Kael'thas buff in years. We need another just transcendent Kael'thas back and forth buffing and nerfing and buffing and nerfing. Don't you think we need that again?
Yeah, Microsoft, make it happen. Let's get some Kael'thas buffs. Soon. We can only hope soon. It's coming up. I think it will happen very, very soon.
Thank you.
Sylvanas actually has a free beeline into the fort. She could do a little bit of pressure into the fort with that minion wave. Murden and Kael'thas are the only ones that are going there. I'm surprised to see this many people rotate back to the center. WildHeart had a 2-2 split against a 0-2, so they really only needed one person mid. But rather than getting a bit of damage on the bottom tower, they are building up rather towards a better conclusion of the objective, making sure that strength comes in numbers, that they're in position to stop Bruiser, to take their own. And in fact, we have Medivh and Diablo going in with the steal here. Oh,
no
Legacy
way.
Standing on the point. Underverted standing on the point too. And you know what? Oh no!
No, Zergling!
Oh no.
Well then, that is going to be right there. First blood to the side of Simplicity. Sorry, I kind of wound that one up a little bit too slow, but a very aggressive engagement. A lot of stacks to be lost by Medivh. I was actually trying to look back at the restream just to see how many, and it looks like maybe actually 3 only right now. Might be a few more, but so. As always, we like to keep track of how many stacks, so I'm just going to go ahead and write down a little -3 in my notebook, and we'll keep track of these stacks as they do progress. But right now, Frozen Punisher top lane, everyone's back in the mix. Medivh is here, trying to build those stacks back. Tremor does get the portal forward. They're going to be diving onto which target right now? Pants, the Leoric. He's going to get slowed by the Sapphire applied to the Haragic Cube. Cleanse out from Legacy. Did he go into the level 7? He actually didn't pick a 7 yet, but it's not going to be the Purification, which would give the 40% cooldown to the 45 seconds of the Purge, as another pressured dive onto Medivh, I guess you could say, will be applied. But Zergling taps a potion, and this is going to be the mop-up of Leoric around this objective phase, though Tremor trying to make a play here onto Masquerade. Shadow Charge, Overpower, health debuff, so much applied to Murden, but Masquerade is going to be able to back away, tap well. And meanwhile, Grubby, Pants is just, I joked about it, but he's just quite literally mopping up skeletal defenders with this Leoric.
Yeah, and Kael'thas was doing that a bit. Mena was doing some solo laning as well, double laning. Huge gravity pulse there. Gravity lapse on both Tremor and on Zergling. Zergling being the primary target there. Kael'thas, Mena decided to come join the team for a bit for that cool cameo. Is now going back to the center, collecting those mana globe stacks. He's got 14 stacks in just 4.5 minutes. Really nice. And giving some crucial XP. The objective easily goes to Simplicity.
Simplicity with this Frozen Punisher that's going to be pushing in through mid lane, dealing 332 damage into structures, 166 into the basic. Tremor stepping forward with a few fire stomps to build out his stacks on the baseline. Mene lurking in the shadows to maybe find a gravity lap setup, but it's not going to work out. Portal forward. Diablo
he
goes
already
in.
used jump. Now it's getting hit by the Sapphire. There's the triangle, but the damage is missing. Mason Blaze was still mopping up, and that's sometimes the choice, right, Bahamut? When you wait to kill the Immortal first, the Punisher, then engage, it's always already too late. When you leave the Punisher to just a bit of health, that's where your engage can still work. But there was a bit of a disconnect. Mason Blaze was going with the finishing approach, and Zergling was going with the let's chase before it's obvious approach. And so they missed that damage on Murden.
Missed damage. Also keep in mind, Muradin did go into Dwarf Block at level 1, so that little Dwarf Toss that he used to disengage through the top lane gave him 4 stacks of the 75 physical armor, so that also did mitigate a little bit of the incoming burst potential. But that all aside, we have 10 talent tiers to really discuss and look into, and it's pretty standard across the board, though it is going to be the Dragon Strike for Hanzo. So the pretzels, man, Grubby, every time you say that, I get a little hungry. I want one of those giant Bavarian pretzels. They're just... Anyways, 10's on the opposing side as well. WildHeart will be able to pick up their heroics. Nothing out of the ordinary. I do find it a little interesting of the mass priority into Wailing Arrow over Mind Control. I feel like we haven't seen Mind Control in a couple weeks. And and I feel like it's a great fishing tool to pull people in. Call of the Dark Lady at level 20 upgrade puts it on a 15-second cooldown, and realistically with like missile speed and time and all that, it's like a 12-second cooldown in totality with the time of cast and all that good stuff. So it's interesting to me because we're jumping to a 90-second cooldown, though it is really, really strong, mitigating the agility of Hanzo or Leoric Wraithwalk or Muradin with a Dwarf Toss or Kael'thas with even Arcane Barrier. So I do see the value for it. We'll see if it comes out here, but here comes Zergling with a Leyline Seal. A lot of damage onto Zergling, and he's going to lose stacks again. Hanzo rips an arrow onto Tremor, who does try and step outside of the damage incoming, and he gets hit in the face with a Stormbolt. There's going to be a Herodier Cube applied with the Emerald to Masquerade. He gets chunked, popping the Avatar form, and that was what? 20 stacks, 10 stacks for Medivh that were lost?
Yeah, quite a bit, and more than that, he's the only one that died so far on WildHeart. Last game on Zergling on Zagara was also the highest death count, and the first and the second, I believe, as well. So he is being targeted quite a bit by Simplicity. Never feels good to be the one that's being targeted. You know, and he's having a bit of a tough go at it. I can't tell if he's making like the biggest mistakes, let's say, or whether it's just really good coordination from Simplicity, but they're going for him. In this particular case, for example, Medivh was giving a portal to someone else, and then they turned around and focused him.
Yep, the portal went out and he was entombed as I just took a peek back, and yes, he will drop those stacks, but it doesn't matter because our next shrine is activatable. It's going to be a Mortar Punisher and Slug Hunter. They're down the talent here on the side of WildHeart. Leyline Seal up in 2 seconds. No Apocalypse to pair into this. We didn't really talk about the fact that it is going to be the Lightning Breath for the Diablo, which he could go into Hellstorm at level 20 for the 200% increased duration. Mene, though, I honest to God feel like he hasn't been threatened one bit throughout this entire game. It feels like Masquerade's been targeted more, maybe unaverted. There's an Entomb. Slug Hunter's on the far side of that Entomb, so he's not taking too much damage. Here comes the Falling Sword from the Johanna onto Masquerade. Stay well and listen, we'll connect onto a few of the Simplicity members. Phoenix from Kael'thas dealing out some damage onto Tremor, who does get hit in the face with the Stormbolt protection status, again from Medivh with the Arcane Barrier. But once again, it's looking like this should be a objective phase to the side of Simplicity, with Leoric quite literally using his mop to take a lot of these skeletal defenders. And meanwhile, all the way in top lane, ladies and gentlemen, you have the Fallen Shaman camp pushing towards this fort, and it does find a bit of damage, but Slug Hunter to clear things out. And now here comes the big bad Punisher through bottom lane.
Yeah, it's gonna do some good damage here. It's the Mortar Punisher. Pant comes in with the flank. He was looking to get a bit of an Entomb. Tremor actually goes in with the Shadow Charge, drops his health too low for him to be able to do anything there anymore. Entomb not used. So far, this atypical pick for Mene with Kael'thas has been conducive to a really sizable lead. In comes another Dragon Pretzel, trying to combo it with Entomb. Gotta be a little critical here. From most of the Pretzel tombs we've seen, it has literally not been on top of the Entomb.
Yeah.
Now, the way it works out because of the delay of the pretzels, you kind of need to cast it before the Entomb comes out, or it won't be fully utilized. So you need to have a mental understanding. Let's see, Zergling does steal the cap. Is it going to be worth it? Force of Will himself. Doesn't have a portal for himself yet. Now he goes away. He had to use everything on himself, but his team is doing a good job getting some kills there. Weary Day with the Stay a While. Listen, that's the first kill. That's the first kill for WildHeart in that engagement there. Could this be the beginning of the turnaround, or will Simplicity just see it as a minor blip on the road?
WildHeart need to make some plays here. Masquerade rounds the corner. He's going to get overpowered. Does he have a Dwarf Toss? Yes, he's going to be able to get away, but there's a portal forward from the Medivh, and the body blocking is available, and that's going to be Masquerade going down. A solid double kill to the side of WildHeart as they rally, pushing the experience up for themselves, but they're not out of this just yet. They still have a fort down. Passive experience gain is a little bit more in favor for Simplicity. Some camps to be grabbed, some waves to be pushed, and the next thing to consider here, Grubby, Arcane Punisher will be our third Punisher of the game up in top lane. If won by the side of Simplicity, they could take down a fort and threaten onto Heat Front Gate. If won by the side of WildHeart, what are they going to be able to threaten? Well, they're going to be threatening a fort front gate. Maybe they can go beyond that, but they got a big hill to climb. Maybe we jump into WildHeart comms before that objective phase or just as it spawns, but until then, I think it's just looking at 16s for both these teams.
Yeah, it's like you said, there's a little bit more potential profit for Simplicity despite the little bit of an experience advantage for WildHeart. But if there's one thing for certain about Diablo Medivh teams is that they must go even further beyond anytime it is possible. And they're already starting to lay the groundworks for that. Taking down this top wall is the perfect pressure point here for WildHeart. And Tremor goes in with a very deep flank. He meets Hanzo. He gets the double combo. Hanzo jumps away. Ancestral healing on 4. I don't think it's going to pop. 4 HP Ancestral.
Wow.
It is actually going to reset the cooldown for Ancestral back to 10 seconds. That was great positioning by Tremor. He was playing completely out of vision, rather deep. And Hanzo blundered into that engagement, thinking, really, from a point of luxury, just taking the quickest point from A to B, it's all Diablo Medivh now. It's all Tremor. It's all Zergling, despite the early foibles. Here, it looks like they might get kill number 2. Mason Blaze was stunned, though, by Mana with the Gravity Lapse, which meant he couldn't prematurely detonate his Wailing to actually hit Rhaegar. And this has maybe allowed Rhaegar to survive. And Doom there, Slug Hunter still taking a good bit of damage. In comes a Flame Strike, but the Force of Will blocks most of it.
Diablo will go down, souls to be reset onto him. Objective phase 10 seconds away. Maybe it was an overextension, maybe it was a little too aggressive, but that is going to be a kill for the side of Simplicity. They'll have positional advantage onto this objective phase due to the fact that Diablo has to still rotate back into all of this, and that means, as I'm saying, and you can see right here, positional advantage. Leoric already on the point, unaverted, playing from the side, and WildHeart are the ones who have to step into this objective, step into this lane, and they need to step into the side of Simplicity. Here comes some decent damage onto Zergling, 15 stacks on his baseline Arcane Rift. Pants with the haunting, the Ghost Walk out of the engagement, and Pants goes down first in the engagement. We do have on the left-hand side, Weary Day so split, and he will go down to Murden, but here's a Lightning Breath from Diablo cooking Kael'thas, and he's going to go down. Falling Sword, Joanna trying to make sure that there's unstoppable for Tremor, so he doesn't get Storm Bolted, slowed, or anything of in between onto Masquerade. Portal forward, looking to dive onto Hanzo, but he gets the agility over the wall. 1-21 in Skeletal Defenders, and WildHeart may have created enough space to make something happen here. Masquerade wants to use the last few moments of this form, and it's also, I forgot to mention, Pants. Cheating death, he will respawn. So what does WildHeart do? Looks like they're going to go for a mid-lane fort.
Yeah, WildHeart keeps doing rather above average in terms of the team fights, but this came at the cost of cannibalizing any pretense of defending the bottom lane against minion wave pressure with those catapults. They've lost part of their bottom keep wall already, and although they went 2 for 1 in the top lane, Leoric doesn't just respawn faster, but also on location. This has allowed Simplicity to go back to a 4-on-4, where there was no healer for WildHeart, and there was one for Simplicity. So they still get the objective. Simplicity is winning in a number one way that matters. Structures. So far there's 6 forts against 4. And they're still getting more damage from the top wall. Simplicity not winning the fight, but they're winning the map.
I think Mene is addicted to split pushing, Grubby.
Yeah, it's
I literally looked at the minimap and I was like, I wonder what Mene's doing, and I just see him hanging out in mid lane pushing up a wave. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I do get it. I do agree with this play. It is a little comical. Like, anytime you look at Mene on the minimap, he's like immediately like thirsting for split push. And I mean, hey, we are going to see a mid lane fort go down. Top lane fort will fall. Keep front gate does go down. And I do like how Simplicity's playing. It's just a little comical that you have this mage main sort of guy who's always calling for the split push. It's not the solo laner who's calling for constant split pushing.
Yeah. And he's got so many globes, 42 in 15 minutes. It's nearly 3 per minute, and he's kept that up consistently throughout the game. and that's given him about 650 bonus mana, a very nifty amount that nearly doubled his mana pool.
Yeah.
Then when he turns on Arcane Barrier, he's going to get a shield worth 2,600 points of shield. That's more than 80% of his current health pool. It's really, really impressive stacking, and that's going to give him over 5,500 in terms of effective health during that. So he's not as risky as sometimes it may feel like. Mena knows what he needs to do on this hero in order to be able to contribute all throughout the game. But as level 20 comes out, what are we going to get? We're going to get Medivh with Temporal Flux and Medivh cheats. We get the bonus survivability and engageability from Sylvanas and Diablo with the blinks. And then Falling Sword level 20. Team fights are going to be very challenging for Simplicity.
Also to note some of the cooldowns, that Hellgate for the Diablo could be a single target lockdown tool, but it's a 100-second cooldown. When we look at the Arcane Barrier for Kael'thas, as we were discussing, 45-second cooldown onto that one for the activatable time. But I think the big thing to discuss in a lot of this is going to be that Respect the Elderly, Stay Well and Listen, silences and blinds enemies for 3 seconds upon waking up from sleep. So it's not... you still have more CC after the initial CC, and then let's not forget Decker Kane's level 13 Ancient Blessings, 45-second cooldown onto that one. For anyone looking for any sort of visual indication as to when that happens, watch the Decker Kane. I believe he gets a little bit of a golden glow around his bottom as well. His icon, sorry, not his bottom. And also the allies that are affected, I think, have a golden swirl around their kind of like their What's the term for the little circle?
They all get a golden halo around their feet, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to remember what the terminology for the little circle it is that indicates their model size. But regardless, another objective phase is up, and we haven't jumped into comms. Do you want to jump into any comms here, Grubby, for either team?
Yeah, let's hear from WildHeart.
In we go.
I'm looking for a ley line.
We gotta hold this.
Yeah, I cleared man. I'm coming bottom now.
I'm ley lining backside.
You guys are all dying. Can you guys get out?
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm falling. I have no fall.
Yeah.
No,
I can't cook it.
I'm gonna die.
I have big ult here.
You guys have to fight right now.
Just live.
Portal.
I couldn't.
You guys have to defend 2v5. I think it's fine though.
Am I supposed to stay right there? I don't know how we're dying.
Safe play with Shrine. Maybe you guys can kill 2 of them.
I know. I'm gonna die if I step up.
There's no Shrine. We'll be up in 30. I think they can actually end here, but if they're not doing it, then we have another shot. Once they cap the Shrine.
I mean, they literally can end right now. I don't know why the hell he is on Shrine. It's just retarded.
You can install them, that's fine. What's your ley line, City?
5 seconds.
Can you mount up?
I mean, that's just game, right?
I'm gonna ley line this.
Link? Yeah. Up in 10.
Up in 20.
Nice game.
Well, as we jump out and we see map number 4 go over to the side of Simplicity, it is going to be WildHeart knocked out of the season, taking 3rd place in the lower bracket final. Simplicity will move on, and they will go up against 30K in that weighted best of 7. Why do I say weighted? Because 30K did not drop down to the lower bracket. They made it through the upper bracket, and they'll have a 1-game advantage. We can break that down further, but we need Justin back into our comms to start talking about how that went all Simplicity and where WildHeart went wrong in the 6-9 kill game.
The same number of kills from the previous game. That's kind of nice. But anyways, so that game was mostly Leoric difference, I'd say. For most of the early game, I'd hinted on the fact that WildHeart not really playing to win the Shrine objective quite as much, and more playing for the team fight, whereas Simplicity has a lot of tools to kill the Shrine minions. And in that game, they basically only used one, and that was Fancy Pants on the Leoric. You can leave him on the objective by himself, and just have him safely do the Shrine, and if WildHeart ever contests him, he just Wraith walks away and regroups with his team. So while WildHeart was trying to force back the side of Simplicity around all the objectives, that doesn't gain them the objective, right? Unless they're able to get kills, that doesn't actually lead to anything meaningful for them. And their early game, it's just very low damage for WildHeart. You saw here at level 13, once they have the Ravens from Medivh plus the Blessings that Deckard gets at 13, that's where they can really start doing some damage. And this level 16 fight was where WildHeart needed to make their their stand to come back into the game. Tremor gets a good pick onto Unaverted, where we're gonna stop time real quick, and he's gonna immediately die as soon as he comes out. They get the pick, but then WildHeart, a little bit greedy. They needed to they needed to get more than they got off of this. They ended up trying to force a dive top, which goes wrong. They end up losing their Diablo souls, and it's just this really long extended fight where Simplicity loves that. That's what their composition thrives on. They have the Muradin that just never dies in these long extended fights, Rhaegar, who can just constantly put out the healing. You have Unaverted on the Hanzo, who manages to respawn in time to continue this fight top. And so when WildHeart gets something, they don't have the ability to do the Shrine, so they don't really have a clear win condition here. And then this is the final fight that we saw. We got into comms, Kael'thas, Mene hits a huge combo on the front line, which just causes a lot of chaos. And you can see Mason Blaze not even able to get into the fight. The fight is basically over before it even begins, WildHeart being a lot more disjointed than they had been in the past. Simplicity just running on full, just all together, super coordinated. Simplicity did, in the end, definitely look like the deserving team here. They played very well, and it's nice to see them be able to play multiple styles. Not every game was the same type of composition for Simplicity, and just well played by Simplicity.
Well played by Simplicity indeed, as we have Fancy Pants on the line to start talking about that series up against WildHeart, maybe the future series they're going to have. Pants, can you hear us?
Hey, I can hear you, Ba.
Hey, congratulations on your victory versus WildHeart. And the first thing I have to ask is, how are you all feeling as a group, like energy level wise? Are you just like, oh yeah, we're still waking up, we got energy, or is it like you're really putting everything on the line for this series and the next?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty hype, I guess. We're not getting too high off the wins, which is good.
Okay.
I think we're just probably average game day mood, which I think is good for us.
Okay, all right. I gotta ask a question immediately, actually. How do you line up these entombs? Because it's like every entomb you get, something actually viable happens from it, whether it be chunking into someone, splitting the enemies, or even finding kills. Like, is it just like you just can see the future? How do you line up these entombs? Because they've been so good throughout today's games.
I don't know. I just kind of press R. I usually tell my team, like, don't go on it, it's a bait, because a lot of times before I would entomb people and then we'd all jump in the entomb with them and then we'd all die. So okay. I try to use it a lot to just take cooldowns away from them. Like we played in the Blaze a little bit there, and I would just entomb him and try to get him to press bunker, and that's just a winning trade pre-20.
Okay.
So and it's such a low cooldown. You kind of just, if you hit one person, you can press it and then maybe they panic.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, I believe it's a 50-second cooldown, so not bad by any means. But of course, Justing, any questions for Fancy Pants?
Yep, congratulations. You guys made it to the finals here. How do you prep for a weekend like this where you know that you have 2 matches if you win, where you have to prep for WildHeart and 30K? Do you kind of look at each team individually and kind of prep for both, or are you mostly just focused on what you guys are going to be doing and keeping that solid?
There's 2 matches today? I'm just kidding. We spent a lot of time with WildHeart draft prep. I think we got caught off guard last week. We hadn't seen them in like over a month, basically. So I think they hit us with some stuff that we couldn't deal with. And then we did spend a lot of time on them. I think 30K, we were scrimming a lot over that month because they were the 1 seed and we weren't playing each other right away. So I think we can just go off those scrims of like how we want to play it. So we didn't do a lot of prep for them. We just winning the first series was our priority. So we made sure we did that.
Oh, very awesome. Thank you, Justin, of course, for the question, and for, Fancy Pants for answering. Of course, we can't let Grubby not ask a question. So Grubby, any question or questions for Fancy Pants?
Just a small one, and
sure.
We'll let you get back to your pre-match preparation. It seems to me like in the final fight, the very final fight on this map, you would go into the bush at the objective expecting to see Diablo there with your finger over the E button. Would you say that is true, that you expected that you want the fight to start that way, as he had tried to shadow charge overpower you a couple of times already, and then once you hit that unstoppable on the charge, that's a fantastic start to the fight?
Yeah, I think I just saw Sylv mid, so if she's mid, they have no damage. So I figured if I base check and they open on me, it's really losing for them.
Well, it
Seems
was
like that was the winning move to me.
Yeah.
Congrats and good luck in the finals.
Thank you.
Well, of course, Fancy Pants, before we let you run out of here, and good luck in that finals, we want to let you have the floor for any shoutouts. It's all yours.
Yeah, shout out my team. Shout out to WildHeart too. Shout out to Slug. I'm good friends with him. He got a lot better this season. I think he should be proud. And I'm good friends with like most of that team. So, GG's to them.
Oh, GG's indeed. Good luck in your prep for 30K, and we'll see you and the rest of Simplicity in a little bit. Good luck out there.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Alrighty, well, with that, we are getting set up for our grand finals of HeroesCCL Season 3. Man, can you believe that we're already here? Like, Grubby and Justin, I was talking to Jules about this on Thursday, and it was like, she said the exact same thing. She's like, it's almost like you blink and we're at the end of the season. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it does definitely take you by surprise. Like, we were just doing group stage and we're still figuring out what the teams are playing and the drafts are changing and the meta are changing. Suddenly today's the final day. Well, we still got a award show next week, but like this is the final play day and we're about to have the final match. It's pretty crazy.
It is going to be a final match, as you just saw the ticker at the bottom of your screen swap over. 30K versus Simplicity. Will Simplicity hat trick HeroesCCL and find themselves with 3 victories, or can 30K shut things down? We're gonna go to a little bit of a break here, but in this break, actually, hold on. Sorry, no, I'm hearing it's not a break just yet. We have a special little treat for everyone at home because of your generosity, because of your support, and pushing to that $15,000 for the prize pool. We have a special little song for all of you at home. So I think now is the best time to dive immediately in to our Grubby song.
Let's go. Okay. I can see what's happening here. You're face to face with the betrayer and it's strange. You don't even know it was I who was betrayed. Well, it's nice to see that teammates never change. Open the draft, it has begun. Yes, it's really me, it's Illidan, don't let me down. I'll drop you a link, watch my stream a lot. You're now playing with a demigod. So what can I say except you're carried with my skills, my rank, my pride. Hey, it's okay, you're carried. I'm not your ordinary stormy guy. Hey, what's got a blindfold but can see with magic eyes, with fell spectral side? This guy. When retreat got cold, who hard and gate so low? Are you looking at me, yo? Oh, I always demand the Abba hats you carried. I make sure the right hat in all caps. Also, I harass their tank. You're carried. Look at my hero damage, then tank. So what can I say except you're carried? If you don't follow me, then I'll feed. We lost one tribute, and now it's GG. You're carried. I guess it's just my way of being elite. You're carried. Well, come to think of it, noobs, honestly, I could go on and on. I could 1v9 and they all get set on. Just heal, just tank, listen to my ping sound. Hey, I'm actually GM on my other account. I killed their heal, but me no buts. You were 4v3, how'd you lose, you studs? What's the lesson? What is the takeaway? Don't mess with Illy when I'm raging away. And the mastery hero on my skin. Here's a proof of the victories I win. Look where I've been, I've made Grandmaster happen. Look at that mean teammate, just taking it up and tap and tap. Ha, 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 hey! Well, anyway, let me say you're carried in this wonderful game we played. Hey, it's okay, don't report me. I don't know how we lost this game, was so free. It's your lucky day to say carry me. You're carried, cause Illy at this rank is easy. They're running away, they all flee, come with me. Where'd you go, they fight if you want me. You left me, couldn't carry. No thanks to you.
Oh God, Grubby, please carry all of us with Illidan. That I gotta say, thank you first of all to Grubby and Cass for putting together this beautiful song. Like, seriously, this is gonna be stuck in my head for days on end. I seriously will not be able to get this earworm just out of my head. But of course, Justin, I gotta get your thoughts here on this amazing video.
Yeah, it was great. That's exactly how the Illidens in my games have been. So it's nice to see that put into the song, and I especially like the rap god part. That was some fire bars there, Grubby. Nice.
It was hard. It was hard. It was one of my first raps, and needed a lot of practice. But I lovingly give that practice to be able to perform that here. On stream of the CCL. So thanks everyone to make this song happen. Thanks to every Illidan for inspiration. All of that is directly pulled from our experience playing with Illidans. It's all based on a true story.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that, we lost first curse. It's not even first, like, full curse. It's the first tribute point. It's like, oh, GG's gonna go stand in core. Ping me when I go AFK.
The funny part is, like, after I wrote these lyrics together with Cassandra, with big Cassandra's help, since then we had 2 to 3 Illidens in Storm League that before they knew these lyrics, they did exactly that. They called GG after one lost tribute when we're leading. They stopped solo laning. They talk about how they're going to carry, and then they have bottom damage, top deaths, and they still say it's someone else's fault. Like, it was so perfect. It was such good footage for this song.
It was beautiful footage. It was a beautiful song. Thank you, everyone, once again, for supporting HeroesCCL, donating to the prize pool, pushing for that goal. And by the way, some of you may have seen it in Twitch chat. Some of you may have Twitch chat closed. But if you're listening in closely, you would notice that there is actually one more big push for the HeroesCCL prize pool. We were generously offered from Justin a song that he wrote when he was 14 years old. So if we hit 20K, we've got that song for all of you. And the prize pool does stay open into the award show weekend. So there is still time to donate towards this. I know it's a big hill to climb. It's less than $4,000. But if we do hit that, Justin has graciously offered this amazing song to us at 20K for the prize pool. An exclamation point prize will get you to the match arena if you'd like to donate for that. But Justin, I gotta like maybe like tease Twitch chat a little bit here. Any sort of like hint or anything you can give us, because we did hit 16K today.
Well, I'd say that it's a good SoundCloud rap beat for any aspiring SoundCloud rappers out there. You can feel free to use it if it is unlocked. So it's a small price to pay for, what could be the next hit single for any aspiring rappers out there for their careers.
And I believe it wasn't just you, actually. I was just informed there was someone else that might have been a part of this as well when you two were young lads.
Yeah, there's a bit of input, I suppose, from Buds, and the inadvertent album cover, I guess, has a baby Buds on it as well.
Oh, there you go. 20K will get us that unlocked. An exclamation point prize pool will get you over there. We thank Grubby, of course. We thank everyone at home for pushing for this 15K reveal. I'm sure all of you will be singing You're Carried throughout your Storm League games in the upcoming week. But speaking of things upcoming, we are going to get ready for our final matchup of Season 3 of HeroesCCL. It is a weighted best-of-7. A weighted best-of-7 means that the team who made it through the upper bracket, that is 30K, will have a one-game advantage going into this best-of-7 series. So 6 maps can be played in total, and the side of Simplicity, they will have to win 4 maps to take HeroesCCL Season 3, 30K only needing to win 3 of their own. But we have to get a little bit of time for these players. We got to be able to stretch our legs, get ready for this final best-of-7 series of the day. And of course, to get prepped for that, we brought Kyle Ferguson back once again for one more interview. But this time, we made it a little special for all of you at home at all of you at home. Thank you all so much for watching HeroesCCL. We'll be back in a few. Don't go anywhere. How do I get better at this game? How do I get as good as a CCL player?
Just give it up, Baha.
What were you thinking?
Bahamut, you're never gonna win.
The CCL players, they're really good. They're in CCL. So I just need the CCL merch to be as good as the CCL players. Oh man, there's some really cool stuff in here. But I don't have time to wait. I need my wins now. I'm gonna make my own CCL merch. That'll get me the wins that I need. Now that I have my own merch, I can win every single hero. Even with my own amazing homemade merch, I'm still not winning. I have to get the real deal. Oh yeah, this is, oh, gotta get one of these, gotta get one of these. It is cold outside, so we're gonna get that new season pullover. Oh yeah. Now to purchase my game-winning apparel from HeroesCCL merch. Well, now that I have this new HeroesCCL apparel, I might as well try out and play some Heroes of the Storm games and see if I can maybe win a little few extra.
Yes! I'm winning! We're winning!
You can win every single game you play in Heroes of the Storm with HeroesCCL Season 3 merch. Wisdom Gaming and HeroesCCL are not responsible for any Storm League points lost or given away to enemies that are better than you.